Jonathan Taylor. There he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. INDY.
The Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Final pitch. High fly ball. Left field. Arozarena watches it go.
Swing and a drive. Left field. This one is back. George Springer just had his Kirk Gibson moment. Bad knee and all, a 3-run homer to put the Blue Jays ahead.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Arozarena. She's gone. He is stricken out. And for the first time in 32 years, the Blue Jays have won the pennant.
Just like that, you have a World Series showdown between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Good morning, everyone. Drama, high drama in Major League Baseball last night as we get ready for the World Series. And, of course, the Colts still taking a breath, breathing in, and living in the afterglow of another dominant victory. They just keep rolling along. We've got Pacers news today. Rick Carlisle is going to stop by. Good morning, Kevin Bowen. Good morning, Mark Dykton. But he is back from Los Angeles, and whatever that 2 or 3 day party window was for James Boyd, we're just happy you're back in one piece and ready to go.
Yeah, never gonna, feel bad about going to L.A., so that was a nice little trip. Like I told you all yesterday, got to see one of my best friends who was my roommate in college. He's now bought a house out in L.A., so you can say he's doing pretty well for himself.
No question about that. So Monday, after another big Colts victory yesterday, I know you were out there, Kevin. This team has just got to feel good about itself, and they're rolling. And what's kind of the vibe out there right now when you go out to West 56th?
Well, no media availability yesterday from an in-person standpoint. We were all virtual. But, yeah, I think they're definitely feeling good. You see the reaction post-game. I mean, James, you can probably speak to it better being inside that locker room. And I felt like this one was circled a little bit more. And, if you want to start to continue to look at the AFC South, you've gotten a lot of help here recently. Got some more help last night with the Houston Texans losing and EJ Speed doing EJ Speed things to end that game. So, yeah. I think you're in a great position, and I think they're certainly feeling that.
Now, they just love watching those AFC South teams tumble, don't you? It's just hard to take, isn't it, James?
If you're a Colts player or fan, certainly not. But to your point, Kevin, in the locker room, the players kept saying, just like last week. And apparently that was a motto that Reggie Wayne had back when his teams were rolling. I think I told you all this yesterday. And I heard Mo Cox kind of break it down when I was asking about the team and how they're playing so well offensively in particular, but sprinkled in throughout a lot of the audio that I have, you got people just in the background yelling out, just like last week. And so this team is very confident. They feel like they can go out there and win just like last week. And I think this is probably their most impressive win of the year. And I guess the good problem to have, which I'm sure you all discussed yesterday and we'll discuss further today, is that you can still, I think, make some tweaks to this roster to perhaps maximize the opportunity you built for yourself.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and just doing simple math on the way in, because that's all I'm good for at 5:15 in the morning is the easy addition and subtraction. This team just goes 6-4 of the final 10 games. They're a 12-win team, James Boyd. Think about that.
Pretty impressive stuff, honestly.
I mean, I don't think at this point in time 6-4 is all that much out of the question. You're probably thinking 7-3 realistically the way the Colts have been playing. Now we know, Kevin, that the second half of the season is going to get a little bit tougher, and you kind of figure that at some point, you're going to have a rough stretch here or there. But think about that. Just 6-4, and you're a 12-win team.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you say that out loud, and it doesn't sound that far-fetched whatsoever. Frankly, 6-4 sounds like the floor, maybe. But yes, the schedule, to be fair, is a little bit more difficult. The NFL always seems to find a way to humble you, but right now, that humbleness seems to be so far away from this football team with how, especially offensively, how surgical they've been. All
right, and we are just a couple of days away now from the start of the NBA season. The Indiana Pacers will be hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder on Thursday night. And, Kev, it's just, you've got kind of your core four that are ready to go. You're going to be searching at the center position for a while, but right now, because of injuries and everything else, what do you have on the second unit at this point in time? That's kind of a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, we might have to ask Rick Carlisle at 8 o'clock if he can suit up. So Rick Carlisle going to join us here coming up Tuesdays at 8 with him. We'll continue, so we really appreciate him doing that here for another season. Yeah, they definitely have some questions, even roster-wise. I know we don't typically get too into maybe the weeds of an NBA roster compared to an NFL roster, but right now they really only have one healthy, true point guard. That would be Andrew Nembhard. Ray J. Dennis, I guess, could be their backup on Thursday night. Quentin Jackson's a little banged up. Again, we know T.J. McConnell's going to miss the first 10 or 12 games. They did keep 4 centers initially on the roster, which is a big number because I think a lot of people out there feel like their best lineup doesn't include a center. That would be Obi Toppin there. So, yes, definitely a lot of questions. And then last night, late for those that stayed up, Aaron Nesmith, 2 years, kicked onto that current contract that he is already on. So an extension for him. He's now on the same timetable as Tyrese Halliburton from a year standpoint. And, James, I continue to look at the Aaron Nesmith contract and think, wow, is this still a steal? I've always felt like the Nesmith contract is stealing money, and I continue to look at it in that light.
Absolutely. I think if he had hit free agency, he would have got way more than this. You look at some of the contracts that players are getting. I'm like, man, Aaron Nesmith, one, he probably just wants the security. So I look at it like this. If you want the security and you want the money to be locked in right away, then you take what's offered right now, which was the max he could get. Now, from my understanding, they could have gone to a 3-year extension, but they chose 2, and he gets the $40 million tacked on to the end of his contract. But if he wanted more money, he would have to play this contract out, obviously, try to become a free agent, and then, see if he can get some suitors to chip in. But looking at where he was when they traded for him, I believe in July of 2022, he was kind of thrown in as part of that Malcolm Brogdon deal to get him over to the Celtics. And it didn't work out at his first stop, championship level team right out the gate when he got drafted. And then now he's become a piece of what was a championship caliber team with the Pacers when Halliburton was healthy, and what looks to be a team that wants to get back to contention after Halliburton returns, and they want him to be a part of it.
Yeah, the other thing, big news in the NBA, LeBron James is going to be out weeks now with what they're calling sciatica, which is a nerve thing going on in his lower back. And so we don't know what that looks like for the Lakers. They've got Luka Doncic out there, obviously, at this point in time. And, this is crazy because I saw this, I don't know, at the very end of Roger Clemens' career, where he said he would come back and only pitch after the All-Star break for teams. And teams were like, you know what? If we're making a run down the stretch, I'll take Roger Clemens for the last 2 months of a season as he started to get older. Do we get to a point in the NBA where a guy like LeBron James could possibly say, hey, you know what? I'll come back and play the last 30 games of the regular season and the postseason for you guys in my final couple of years? It sounds crazy, but could you see something like that going on?
No, just because for LeBron, he's been the most durable superstar ever.
Yeah, but he's also over 40 now.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at his MO, he plays basketball. I know people do the whole, hey, he low manages, he rests. I think that Kawhi Leonard is probably the face of that. If you look at LeBron's career, he's played more than any other superstar outside of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So, I mean, I know he's going to be out for a while, but I would expect when he hits the ground that he wants to go out there and play because, as I like to say on social media, hoop is hoop.
I want to go back to Nesmith for just a second because I think when we look back on that magical run last year, the obvious core memory is the Halliburton heroics. I mean, that is the easy thing, and that, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, that will be the highlight reel that people dial up first. But I was struck last night just thinking back on Nesmith and his career here. And, as James said, I don't think a lot of people put too much stock into his name when he showed up in that trade for Malcolm Brogdon. But I will never forget the free throw, rebound, tip dunk he had in Cleveland.
Yeah.
To ignite that comeback. That comeback does not happen without Aaron Nesmith making that play. Game 1, Madison Square Garden, Halliburton shot that goes up to the heavens. That does not happen without Aaron Nesmith having the flurry of all fourth quarter flurries. I mean, remember how many threes he hit. Bang, bang,
in the
bang.
fourth quarter.
Mike Breen doesn't want to say that when he's calling a Pacers-Knicks game, but he had to because Aaron Nesmith did that sort of display in that venue as well. So, again, it probably gets lost a little bit just because of how unbelievable the cinema was around Tyrese Halliburton and those shots. But on the road, those 2 comebacks, they don't occur without Nesmith in 2 very different ways. Obviously, the dunk is a lot different than what he did with all those threes there. So very deserved for him, and certainly a huge year with a lot more on his plate offensively and defensively coming up.
Well, it's going to be a lot. I still think it's going to be obviously fascinating to see how they operate without Halliburton and Miles Turner, who's off to Milwaukee right now. But I just feel like this team is going to win a lot of games in the middle of the week against teams that are coming in here on the second, third, or fourth night of road trips. And I think they're just going to get run ragged. And I think there's still a core group here that when they play their 30 minutes together, 28, 26, 30 minutes together, man, they can do some damage. I still believe that.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but I'm worried about center, man. I'd be lying to you, Jeff, if I didn't mention that. So
look what happened against Wembanyama just in the preseason.
Yeah, and that's, Wemby's obviously like, grade A, top tier center, but I'm looking at the group and just wondering, okay, who's playable, who's passable?
And we should mention no extension for Benedict Mathurin. That
Right.
was the other, eve of the season. NBA starts tonight for those curious. Pacers.
And I actually don't think that either one was like all that surprising to us or like the fan base. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this throughout the offseason. I think for both parties, Benedict Mathurin wants to play this year out. Now the Pacers will still have right of first refusal. I think they can actually negotiate initially with him once the season ends.
He'll be a restricted free agent.
As a restricted free agent there. So Mathurin will be in a contract year upcoming this season. Again, not to me the most shocking thing in the world there. So Pacers still have a couple other roster things to figure out, I think, before Thursday night. But it is here.
It is definitely here. All right. Everything you're going to need to know for the rest of your sports day is coming your way in a moment with the checkdown. In the meantime, Rick Carlisle slides in at 8 o'clock to talk about the upcoming NBA season. Looking forward to that. And we'll talk Colts throughout the day as well. It's 239-1070, the fan text line. Always welcome those things. You can call us up at 239-1070 when we have a chance to talk to you. We'd love to do that. It's going to be a busy Tuesday here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah! 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 That's how we feel!
Down on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning. It's Tuesday. You wake up and the Indianapolis Colts are 6-1. The Indiana Hoosiers are 7-0, ranked second in both the coaches and AP polls, and the number one preseason team in college basketball in America are the Purdue Boilermakers. It's a good time to be in the state of Indiana right now. Colts, as I mentioned, are 6-1. They will host the Tennessee Titans Sunday afternoon, 4:25. I know not much happening out at West 56th yesterday, Kevin, but do we have any kind of injury updates in the day after at all yesterday?
So Tyquan Lewis day-to-day was probably the one update that Shane Steichen gave. That was actually some bit of information. Sounds like Travarius Ward will return this season with that concussion. He's on injured reserve, but he will be back at some point. And then we'll see on Samson Ebukam. Some reports out there that he will miss time. Shane would neither confirm nor deny that. Some people have asked about the 4:25 kickoff. I know it's a bit odd for the Colts to be in that window with another AFC team. This is the week of the NFL season where we have the most bye weeks. I want to say 6 teams are on a bye, so you have to slot some games in the 4 o'clock window. I want to say the Colts are one of 3 games that are into that 4 or 4:25 window, so there's just a little bit of reasoning behind it. I could see at the start of the year on paper, Cam Ward, Anthony Richardson, maybe. So obviously that's not how it's played out. But yeah, Colts, I believe, are one of the 2 CBS games coming up this weekend. I think it's Denver and Dallas, the other one.
James,
Denver and Dallas, yeah.
James, we were talking about opening lines yesterday. The Colts are 14.5-point home favorites over the Tennessee Titans. You don't see 2 touchdown favorites in the NFL very often. If I'd have told you in August that, yeah, by the time they get to that Tennessee game, there'll be 2 touchdown favorites, you'd have looked at me like I was cross-eyed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have known what to expect from this team, or I would expect Cam Ward to be injured or something like that. But honestly, the way I look at their offense, I might take the over. Like, they are scoring points at a very high rate. I'm trying to find weaknesses in the offense. I really can't. I mean, I'm probably nitpicking if I do. So to me, this offense is Super Bowl caliber. The numbers they're putting up are stuff we haven't seen in decades, and it's better offenses, at least through the first 7 weeks, than they had with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. So that says a lot about the level they're operating at, especially with Daniel Jones and JT leading the way.
All right. Last night, doubleheader on Monday Night Football to clean up the Week 7 of the National Football League. The Detroit Lions got a great performance from Jahmyr Gibbs, a career night for him, over 220 total yards, 2 touchdowns. He had it rolling. Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield had trouble getting things going, but more importantly for the Buccaneers, Mark, did you see that their big gun, Mike Evans, goes down trying to make a catch, breaks a collarbone, will be out most of the rest of the season, they're saying right now.
Yeah, I thought he had a concussion just the way he got hit and was kind of laying there, and then it came out later that, likely out for the season with a broken collarbone. Man, oh man, I love Mike Evans. He's a baller, and it sucks to see him go out, and, Baker Mayfield, he's doing his best out there, but no Mike Evans. That stinks.
Yeah, also in the later game, the Seattle Seahawks won a fairly sloppy game over the Houston Texans. 27-19 was the final score there. Sam Darnold, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, 8 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. He is wide receiver 1+1 right now. He is on fire, Mark Dykton. Just some of the fantasy numbers he's been putting up, making people happy.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold living up to the big money contract he got, too.
All right, college football coming up this weekend. This was interesting. UCLA will come into Memorial Stadium against number 2 Indiana. I love what Curt Cignetti said yesterday, James Boyd. He's treating UCLA as an undefeated 3-0 team since making their coaching change, and that's how he's framing it with his players this week.
Whatever mind games you got to play, I probably trust whatever Curt Cignetti is doing just because it's worked so far. But, I mean, I'm not really buying that, but I do think that they're playing much better football than they were early in the season. So it should be an interesting game. I think of the games that are left on the schedule, that is one that kind of I'm looking at like, don't get trapped, and make sure if you're IU, you try to close the regular season undefeated.
All right, let's go to Major League Baseball. Last night, Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. Mariners on the road in Toronto, controlling the game. They lead it 3-1, but they put 2 runners on in the bottom of the 7th inning, and George Springer came to the plate.
And a swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Arozarena. She's gone!
That was that. 4-3. Big moment for the Blue Jays. Back to the World Series for the third time in franchise history, denying the Mariners, Kevin, their first opportunity to ever get to the postseason classic. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it felt awful for the Mariners there. I mean, you get the Rodriguez big dumper home runs. You think you're sitting there pretty, and then boom, George Springer, who has certainly had October heroics before, he does that to you. Hell of an atmosphere, looked unbelievable, but yeah, there was part of me that's rooting for the Mariners. But as Mark Dighton said yesterday, now we wave the AL flag in the World Series. Mm-hmm. Go Blue Jays, go.
Well, as soon as that ball went off the bat of Springer, that is gone. I mean, it was just moonshot.
Vintage him.
Mm-hmm. Got to see if somebody can beat the Los Angeles Dodgers, who seemingly have all-stars at every position and go about 4 deep in the rotation, Mark.
Well, he gets Shohei Ohtani performance from the other night. I mean, he'll be a short series.
All right. Some interesting news coming out about Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White was speaking yesterday. Still listed as week to week as she returns from a groin and ankle injury. Still only playing 2-on-2, some light 3-on-3. Stephanie White said we don't want her to play 5-on-5 yet. We've got time. We'll take it slow. That ankle injury, Caitlin Clark said the worst she's ever suffered. Maybe it was just a lot worse than we ever even thought.
Perhaps. I believe she being Stephanie White spoke to Andy Starr about this on their podcast. So check that out after our show, if you're interested. But I would say when it comes to Caitlin, personally, I'm like, just let me know when she's back out there playing real hoops, and we certainly hope that is sooner rather than later.
We certainly do. NBA does open up tonight, as Kevin said a moment ago. The Houston Rockets, fresh off re-signing Kevin Durant to an extension, will be taking on the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. That one will come your way at 7:30 this evening on Peacock, and then Warriors and Lakers later on again. LeBron James out for a number of weeks, they're saying, with sciatica to start the NBA season. Anything else you guys want to throw in right now, Kevin?
I'm already annoyed how many streaming services you need for the NBA this season.
I was just going to say that, Mark. Yes.
So this is it not on NBC? Is it only on Peacock?
It says NBC/Peacock.
Yeah, it's on regular TV. The season opener.
But there will be games that are just strictly on Peacock.
Right.
So you'll be looking for it on NBC.
But just to clarify for everybody, tonight
NBC and Peacock.
You will get an NBC doubleheader tonight. You won't have to Peacock it. Best to Matthew Graves at Indiana State. Announced yesterday. Just sounded horrific. Triple bypass surgery was needed for him yesterday morning. Have heard nothing but I don't know Matthew personally, but I've heard nothing but unbelievable things about him as a human, as a basketball coach. So best to the Indiana State community, and certainly Matthew Graves and his effort to get back on the sidelines.
Yeah, that is I'll tell you firsthand, that is scary stuff when they have to start working on your insides right there. So we certainly hope that he's going to be okay moving forward. All right, coming up at 8 o'clock, conversation with Rick Carlisle to kick things off for the 25-26 NBA season. We'll be talking Colts in the 9 o'clock hour as well with Joel A. Erickson. So it's going to be a big, busy morning here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Can't wait to spend it with you. 239-1070 is how you get back at us.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good Tuesday morning. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show. Rick Carlisle coming your way at 8 o'clock. The guys will have a conversation with him about the upcoming NBA season. We'll check out some of the texts that people are sending in on this Tuesday morning. This is an anonymous one. I like this, though, for both you guys. Just had an epiphany. I haven't heard discussed. Why don't we trade Alec Pierce and maybe either Kwity Paye or Latu as well for a top 5 or 10 edge rusher that could be available? James, you wrote an article in the Athletic today about going all in if you're the Colts. Are we starting to look or think about things like that as we move forward?
Yeah, that article was from yesterday, but it's something I definitely want to revisit more this week, especially being 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. But I will say this. To that question, I immediately went deaf as soon as you said Alec Pierce. He's not going anywhere. He is arguably their best receiver this year. So I do think there is some players, A.D. Mitchell or somebody else, you can look at to package to try to go get someone. But also, if you're going to get an edge rusher at the deadline, I also don't think it'll be like a top 5 guy at that position because those guys, one, are on huge contracts. You probably want to try to get somebody who's, mid-tier, proven. Trey Hendrickson is somebody that obviously comes to mind because he's on expiring contract, but I do think that big win for the Bengals last week maybe changed things for their future at the deadline. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But Alec Pierce, trade? Oh, no, absolutely not.
The question remains, though, do you think Chris Ballard would possibly do something coming off an offseason where he was very aggressive? And here they are, 6-1. Scored more points than anybody in the league, but defense seems to be a problem. If you're looking long term and you have big aspirations, what do you think happens, especially with new ownership? Does it change the entire dynamic?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think they should. Ballard obviously changed his tune, back in free agency. Very much needed, and I think you're reaping some of the benefits of that. Now, this is a little different. You obviously would be parting ways with another draft pick, which, for Chris Ballard, that's, a little bit children-like in how he likes to build. But to your point, Jeff, they've never been in this situation under him. And we know pass rush means a lot to him as well. So I think you should. I probably am with James a little bit more. That trade idea sounds a little bit more Madden video gamey to me than anything. I think you got to be realistic and kind of a middle-round pick, and you're probably not going to get some dude that has, a slew of 12 sack seasons on his resume, but just offer some juice to a group that I think really, really needs it. Right now, if you look at the last month, I want to say opposing quarterbacks are averaging like 330 against the Colts, 335 maybe against the Colts. If you go back these last 4 games, it's the second worst mark in the NFL this season if you look at any 4-game stretch. So, I think you got to live in reality with, how the last month has been for this passing defense. And for me, your pass rush can impact that more than coverage. Again, coverage-wise, I think you can talk yourself into, okay, Javarius Ward's going to come back at some point this season. We'll see if Jalen Jones ever happens. I don't see any of those names, though, necessarily at pass rusher popping up. So that's probably why I would entertain it as well.
I'm just curious, how much of those big yardage numbers, and those are huge yardage numbers, by the way, how much of that is chalked up to a couple of these games just garbage time where teams are just trying to throw the ball all over the field to keep up?
I wouldn't put much stock into that at all. Honestly, I thought the Chargers were in that game until DeForest Buckner got that sack on their last drive to kind of push them back, and then Zaire Franklin made that great play down the middle of the field on Lab McConkey for the pass breakup, and they ultimately forced turnover on downs. But if you look at what the Chargers were able to do in that second half, I mean, the Colts couldn't stop them at all. And in a 14-point loss, now give credit where credit is due, the defense forced 2 turnovers in the red zone, so Grover Stewart and Nick Cross deserve a ton of praise for that because ultimately I think in this league, turnovers determine a lot of who wins and who loses. But no, I am not convinced that this was just garbage time. No, these teams are going out here and beating you. And if you look back at the Arizona game, that wasn't garbage time either. They went down the field and nearly beat you on a 4th down, last second pass. So I think they definitely need to be much better when it comes to pass defense.
James, you bring up the Buckner plays, probably plural.
He's so good.
Ice the game. So good. A play that, Jeff, you and I should have mentioned yesterday, and we did not, and was such a play that if it goes the other way, fans are just ripping this player because I would argue he's the most ripped Colt player, maybe not named A.D. Mitchell. How about 30 yards down the field in coverage, Zaire Franklin on Ladd McConkey on that
Great
third
play.
and 22. That was play number, 19 of the drive, 20 of the drive. Zaire Franklin ain't subbing out. The dude plays every snap. And, yes, has this season not been at the level that I think maybe you would like it to be? Yeah, I think that's fair. But what a big-time play. I mean, that is a dream for Justin Herbert. I get my best wideout on a linebacker 30 yards down the field on a 3rd and 1,000,000. I mean, that is you couldn't have asked for a better matchup there. And there's Franklin not panicking, not committing a penalty, looking like a DB, frankly, and making a great play on the ball to knock it away. And if they score there,
One possession game?
who knows? 3:30 to go. Yeah, to James's point, 1-score game. They might do the weird thing that teams sometimes do. They go for 2 initially. They maybe try to cut it to 6 there, right there. And now the pressure is really on the Colts. They still would have had 2 timeouts, the Chargers, and the 2-minute warning. Big-time play from Zaire Franklin, and really a pretty unique play for a linebacker to be that far down the field, play 19 of the drive, play 70 of the game probably for Zaire, and he just steps up and has a huge pass deflection.
Yeah, and that you're right. We didn't talk about that a little bit yesterday, and that's a huge play for a guy that has been criticized a lot this year. And it's funny, we'll hear some sound later on today, but I was listening to Shane Steichen on Colts Roundtable last night. He kind of seems okay with where the defense and the rush, the pass rush is at this point in time. He talked about all the pressures they got and how that caused Justin Herbert to make some mistakes in that football game.
Well, I'll say this. Love Shane, but he says a lot of things I would imagine differently behind closed doors. And when has he ever said anything that is remotely controversial when it comes to his team or what they might upgrade at? I was asking him yesterday about the trade deadline, and he gave the typical coach answer. Oh, I'll leave that to the GM. We always going to get better. But, yeah, I'm not surprised he said that. But internally, I would imagine the conversation between him and Lou Anarumo is different.
Yeah, he occasionally does this, where publicly, James, he downplays things.
Yeah, which he should. I mean, I wouldn't go out there and be like, oh, man, my pass rush stinks.
No, I mean, I think you can walk a little bit of a line of, hey, we need to get better there, something along those lines where you don't have to individually call out guys. But you would be naive to think that right now what the Colts are getting defensively from that area is playoff worthy, or however you want to view it, as you play some better quarterbacks on the schedule there. And actions will speak louder than those words. And actions will happen, 2 weeks from today, or within the next 2 weeks, I should say. NFL trade deadline, 14 days away.
Yeah. So they've got some time, and maybe they look and they see what's going on against Tennessee, and maybe they want to see it. Look, if there's ever a team to dominate, there's a reason they're a 14.5-point favorite. This might be the time to pin your ears back and go for it and see what you can really do.
Yeah, but I feel like we had this conversation last week with the Chargers.
Feels like it's every week.
I mean, they had no offensive linemen that were – they had down several starters, down several backups. And I believe on the first series of the game, Kevin, one of their linemen went down then. So to not have more pressure on Justin Herbert throughout that game, I think is a bit concerning. Now, I will say DeForest Buckner was absolutely dominant, but I feel like he's been the only consistent guy who's able to get pressure on the quarterback. And as you look at some of the advanced numbers or just use your general eyes, he gets doubled more than anybody. And I think you do that because, one, he's a great player, but two, you're not worried about anybody else getting to the quarterback.
I would like the pass rush to get better. I would like it to get better in a hurry, especially with the Week 9 opponent coming off. I would like the Colts to tee off on their quarterback, who I will not name.
Who's Week 9, Mark?
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
What'd you say Sunday Night Football is this week?
Sunday Night Football is...
It is going to be the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. That's a dream matchup for you.
Watch right there.
It's a dream matchup.
You're gonna have to look that up. That was set on a tee for you there. We talked about it yesterday. That's the meteor game for Mark Dykton.
Yeah.
Is that what you root for a tie?
I've never been more of a
press the button for the
meteorologist. I'm like, do we have any meteorites, comets coming through? Can we have a dinosaur situation happen? What are we doing here?
Max Bone be all over that.
Man, oh man.
Release the Velociraptor.
You realize I had to actually say the names of the teams. He was not going to say the names of those teams.
That's a disgusting. I mean, it is going to be a hate watch. I'm going to be not rooting for both teams to lose. I don't even want a tie. I just want them to both get losses somehow. No ties.
The Steelers, if you're wondering, are home underdogs against the Packers right now.
That's fine.
So
Micah Parsons, you got paid all this money? Go get that guy.
But if it takes Aaron Rodgers to have like a 290-yard, 3-touchdown game
Mark
with no
wants
picks
physical
to beat
Aaron
the
Rodgers.
Packers,
He wants a broken
are
leg.
you okay with that?
I'm okay with whatever. I would like the Steelers to win, obviously, but I'd like it to be on the running game, and Aaron Rodgers throws like 4 picks and 80 yards.
Mark wants the Green Bay Packers lineman to Micah Parsons jump on his back like his own teammate did last week, which is hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. What a jerk. Can't
Could you
even
imagine
celebrate
if
good
a Colts
times.
lineman jumped on Daniel Jones like that?
Oh.
I feel like Shane Steichen would
I thought Rodgers was
lose
hurt
it.
Yeah.
when he first went down.
He's an old
be doing
man.
that.
What do you?
Yeah,
Probably
he's a
is.
relic.
Got some sciatica going on or something.
That's Mark's word of the day.
Yeah.
Sciatica.
It's cold weather. My shoulder's hurting or what? Like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack. Oh, my arm, it's broken.
Another guy who's not your problem anymore is Justin Fields done as the quarterback of the Jets already.
The Jets stink. Aaron Glenn might be a 1-year coach because that looks like a complete train wreck.
But we'll always have him sprinting down the sidelines, though, won't we?
To September, that was whoever mashed that up was great.
And to James's point, Cincinnati plays the Jets this week. So, the Bengals could win another game, which would, keep, I feel like everyone is sending me, hey, Hendrickson this, or, Cincinnati defender that. It's like, well, if they keep winning, they didn't trade for Joe Flacco to go tank. They tried to save their season. So it's going to have to take, I would say, 2 straight losses for them to all of a sudden be sellers at the deadline, if that.
Well, they are only 3-4, but check this out. All 3 of their wins have come within the conference. So not only are they a game and a half behind Pittsburgh, who's already had a bye week, but they've got games still to play, a game still to play against Pittsburgh, and they're 3-1 in conference play, which, when it comes down to wild card spots, that's what's going to make a difference right there. So if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm sitting there going, hey, if we can just play even 500 or one game over 500 till Joe Burrow gets back, we're right where we need to be.
James, when's the last time you played pickup?
It's been a few weeks because of the schedule. Usually I play with JMV on Sundays. Looking forward to hopefully getting a run in this upcoming Sunday because of the 4 p.m. or 4:30-ish kickoff.
Pacers might need you for some backup PG clock coming up Thursday.
Well, I imagine they're trying to win the game, so no, they don't need me.
I literally have no idea who their backup point guard will be Thursday night.
That is very interesting, especially because I believe the waiver deadline kind of passed. So you have to figure out, what other avenues you might go through to get somebody in there. And
just to go over everything, obviously
feel free to recap.
We know his situation. Andrew Nembhard is your starter. TJ McConnell injures his hamstring in the preseason opener. He's going to be out at least a couple weeks into the regular season. They bring in, first it was going to be DeLon Wright.
Right.
And then the physical doesn't clear.
Oh, no. Was it a Monte Morris?
Oh, yeah. Monte Morris, if you go back. Yes, thank you for that. That doesn't work out. And then DeLon Wright situation, how long did that last?
He got concussed in that game, and then he got waived.
The same game that McConnell got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So then he's gone. They bring in Cameron Payne. They clearly don't like what they saw from Cameron Payne for a couple of games. Amidst all of this, Quentin Jackson, who we've seen, be on a 2-way contract, and actually, I think when he's gotten a little bit of clock with the NBA team, he gives you a little energy. He hurts his hamstring. It sounds like he won't be ready for Thursday night. So if you're looking at healthy point guards, I guess it's Ray J. Dennis, but do you have Jarris Walker point forward it with the second unit?
That's a great question to ask Rick Carlisle because I don't know. It's tough. I almost want to be like Mather, and you're a ball handler. Can you bring it up a couple times? I know it's not your nature. You're more of a scorer/slasher, but I mean, you're looking at this point, how many bodies do we have just to throw out there to hopefully alleviate some pressure on Andrew Nembhard, which is what we were kind of worried about coming into the season. Now, I already had questions before the injuries, and now I have more because you're putting so much on the plate of Nembhard to start off this season, and I get it. This is what I'm sure he welcomes, but not to this degree right out the gate.
It's crazy, too. Yesterday everybody was making their preseason predictions on how the NBA season is going to go, and most valuable player, Nikola Jokic, getting a lot of love for that, and I get all that. But they came to over-unders again on a lot of these sites. And I just picked one here at CBSSports.com. Indiana Pacers under 37.5 wins. I get it with all the injuries even starting the season off. I get it. The 2 of your 5 guys are gone from the starting lineup last year. I just feel like this team is going to find a way to win their share of games in the 40 to 42, 43 range. I can't get past that feeling. I think they're just going to win a bunch of games when teams are a little bit down and a little bit tired, and they're just going to outlast a lot of these teams.
I don't know, Jeff. I'm skeptical already. Just because of the injuries, it's hard to dismiss how hurt they are going into the year. And I think a lot of folks, as much as they love the rest of the group, and I find myself doing this to a degree when I look at the Pacers, it's like I don't want to discredit how great of a player Tyrese Halliburton is, and he might be worth 10 wins himself outright. So you look at what they did last year, where they finished, and you take the best player, one of the best point guards in the world off of that team, it's hard to absorb that. And like you said, you're also, kind of just figuring out what you're going to do at center because you are notably worse there too. I get it. Miles Turner left. He might have betrayed you and he'll get booed when he comes back, all those things. But that doesn't change the fact that he was a much better option at center than what they have right now.
A huge reason why I've been so bullish on the Pacers in recent years is because of the 82-night grind. I feel like they're built depth-wise to your point, Jeff, outlast teams, to handle back-to-backs better, to, hey, we're going to run you into the ground here for 48 minutes, and you better get on your track shoes or, it's not going to go well for you. Is that still a superpower?
That's a great question.
It's going to be tough right off the bat with all the problems you just talked about in the bench. There's no question about that.
Still? And if you just played the game, this is probably what a lot of national people do. If you just played the game, because what do you see in all these little preseason, graphics on these websites? They shrink it down to 3 sentences on each team.
Yeah.
They throw in last year's record, and the other thing they probably throw in is additions, subtractions, right? Who's new, who's left. Okay? Subtractions. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner. Who are the additions?
Well, and to drill down on that, the CBS article was talking about what's their identity without Halliburton and Miles Turner.
Who are the additions?
They
answer
really
that.
aren't. Yeah.
Yeah, like Jay Huff.
Right. I mean, so
no, I'm serious. I wasn't trolling. I mean, Jay Huff is an addition.
Like all the additions are internal hope and growth of Mathurin, jump, Walker,
Isaiah
jump.
Jackson healthy,
right.
James Wiseman healthy. Yeah.
And again, I'm still bullish on north of 40, but I get why there are some people out there that just look at it of, hey, 30 teams across the league. I think the Pacers, and I know it's a dangerous game to play, I think they've largely earned benefit of the doubt. And again, I know it's a little bit of like, oh boy, okay, is that true belief? But that's where I'm at on it. But if you look at it and say, all right, you're taking one of the best point guards in the world, you're taking away a 10-year guy at center who's been a pretty reliable player for you. I get why there's a little bit of pause.
Yeah, they say their margin for injuries is minimal. There's even an argument to trade some of the older players. TJ McConnell will be 35 when the 27 playoffs roll around. Probably makes more sense for him to participate in the 2026 postseason on a team that plans to compete in those. And he's not the only Pacer that fits that description. Indiana, like the Boston Celtics, has a rare chance to add cheap labor with a top draft pick. If they're on the borderline, they'll surely be tempted to take it. Interesting stuff. So we'll talk to Rick Carlisle about all that stuff coming up in a minute. Again, the NBA season kicks off tonight with a couple of games. They will be a doubleheader on NBC. When was the last time we saw prime time outside of the playoffs basketball on network television, Kevin? I know NBC's got basketball back. It's kind of their big tip-off for the season tonight. We haven't seen that much.
Is Grady on the call for one of these games? He's with NBC, right? Amongst a couple of other hats he's going to wear this year? I would assume Mike Tirico is probably doing the first game, right?
Yeah, and isn't Michael Jordan doing something? Is that with Prime or was that with NBC?
I think it's NBC, but I don't know exactly. I mean, is Jordan going to be in the
I don't know. I'm
see
just
him
curious to
courtside
see.
commenting on second quarter.
All right, let's go back
play.
to the studio here, and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be that, but I'm curious to hear from him. I'm like, he's the best player ever, so. What does he have to say about today's stars and the state of the league and things of that nature? I mean, we rarely hear from him.
Will the Pacers raise a Eastern Conference banner Thursday night? Will they do anything Thursday night?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'm assuming they probably should.
I'm trying to think, and
I don't know. I'm trying to picture the Raptors in my head.
I'm literally trying to picture the Raptors. I swear there's an Eastern Conference champions banner. Is there not?
I don't know. I feel like my eyes always go towards the jerseys and thinking that Nancy Leonard should be up there as well. I would imagine at some point. But yeah, that's a good question. And I don't say this is like a joke either. I feel like if you make it to the conference finals it's fine if you put the banner
I'm not,
up there. Like, this isn't.
This is not wild card participant
yeah,
banner.
exactly.
Whatever Mark thought the language was on that. What did you what do you think it was on it, Mark?
Say it again.
Did you think it said wild card participant?
Yes. Wild or AFC final. I forget what it said exactly. Yeah, wild card participant or wild card.
Wild card participant is crazy.
There's no way it said participant on that.
I have to find it.
Can you imagine?
I took a picture on like 6 phones ago.
That side by side.
There's
with,
no way.
Addison's soccer ribbon she got from the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you got if you need to fill some space, you put out whatever you can. I need to find that picture.
I'm totally good with the Eastern Conference final banner.
I think they've earned that,
we got a text here about can Taylon Peter bring up the ball? Ben Shepard.
You know what? I did like what I saw from Taylon.
I like
I
me some
will add
Taylon
that.
Peter. This is the second round
Yes.
pick out of Liberty, right?
Yes.
The analytics guy that defied all these crazy analytics as a shooter and a dunker in college, and I thought he showed a little bit more than I was unfamiliar with his game. Would be the best way to put it. And I got familiarized pretty quick, and I kind of like what I saw.
And we go with KB with the Shaq reference. I wasn't familiar with your game.
Slightly different tone of voice with that.
It was 2014 AFC finalist. That's what it said.
Yeah. See, the finalist part is like, But
So
put
this
up.
would be different. This would be
You've
won
won a
the
conference title.
conference.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. The top 2 play-by-play guys for NBC, although I'm not finding tonight's assignments, Mike Tirica and Noah Eagle.
And I
Yeah.
think
Rico
Reggie
and
Miller,
Noah
I believe
Eagle, maybe.
Jamal Crawford, I want to say.
There's a lot of people that did like the whole Amazon thing, and I think is Grady not a part of that? I think he's a part of the Amazon crew, but
I think both.
Yeah.
I think Grady,
get your bag, Grady.
Grady's got a very crowded
Get
plate.
the money.
And by the way, the Pacers, they got the Thunder Thursday, and then they go on the road. The Pacers' schedule first 7
Yeah, that was
to
crazy.
10 games is tough.
Yeah.
And they go out west
Yeah.
pretty early in the season here, so
It was like welcome home and pack your bags basically.
it's like a 3-game road trip.
Yeah.
Right after. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Miles Turner return game is early in the season. I want to say that's a Monday in November. So, yeah, it's a very challenging slate, I think, out of the gate.
All right, a lot to talk about. NBA season kicks off tonight. The Pacers get rolling at home Thursday night. The head coach of the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle, stops by for his Tuesday chat next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
8 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I think I speak for a lot of listeners out there, certainly some that have reached out over the years, and it's their favorite time of the week when it comes to this show, and we're very appreciative of Rick Carlisle joining us again for another season here. Tuesdays at 8 o'clock as the Pacers get things underway coming up Thursday night. It'll be Pacers and Thunder. It is a national broadcast as they kick off the 2025-2026 season. Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now, and he is the head coach of the Indiana Pacers joining us. Coach Carlisle, good morning to you. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
We are wonderful. Thank you again for the time this season. Obviously, a ton to get to. Let's start with the news item for those that maybe went to bed early last night. Reportedly a 2-year extension for Aaron Nesmith. I brought it up earlier, Coach. You know, to me, I look back on the playoffs last year and, you know, his putback dunk against Cleveland to spearhead that comeback. Obviously, the flurry of threes he hit in MSG to kind of spearhead that comeback as well. I just think he's such a valuable cog to what you guys are all about. What has he meant to you, and how have you seen him grow in your time with him here?
Well, it's been great to see and be a part of. I think the bottom line is he's a proven starter for us, and you know, the opportunity to extend a guy a couple of years. So now I think he's under contract for 4 years, including this year that we're headed into. So it's great news for the organization. Certainly, I think he's very happy about it. And there's just been a lot of growth. You know, here's a kid that barely got in the games when he was with the Celtics, and you know, a lot of that had to do with the guys that were ahead of him. A lot of them were great players, etc. But this has been an amazing opportunity for him, and he's taken advantage of it, and he's really helped us.
Rick, how much do you think the success that Aaron Nesmith has had, the change of scenery here in Indiana, can have a trickle-down effect on other players? Just seeing, like you said, he didn't, you know, perhaps have the opportunity he wanted early on, but kept grinding away, and now he's looked at as one of the best two-way players in the league.
Well, I think the organization looked at his situation and basically said, this is a guy that any team in the entire league would love to have. He's versatile. He is skilled. His shooting is, you know, we've seen what he's able to do shooting the ball. And it just made too much sense to figure out a way to get this thing done. And yes, I do think that this was one of the things, you know, his development that has made the Pacers, you know, more of a destination in terms of the conversation of, you know, free agency and things like that. And so a lot of very powerful reasons to get it done, and obviously everyone's very happy.
Pacers back to practice today, again Thursday night. They will open up the season with the Thunder. Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, as of now, you know, on paper, you know, Andrew Nembhard, and then who knows behind him from a point guard standpoint. Do you kind of view this as a by-committee approach until T.J. McConnell returns, or how are you looking at point guard, particularly the depth there heading into the season opener?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of by-committee stuff going on with the point guard position, with the center position. And that's okay. I mean, there's great opportunity there. We've had a 3-week training camp to look at and evaluate a lot of these guys. But an NBA season is so long. It's 6 months and 3 weeks. You learn some things, but you know, certainly as we get into the heat of it here, and you know, the schedule at the beginning of the year is no joke. I mean, there's just you know, a lot of great teams, a lot of road games. You know, there will be a lot of challenges, and under those circumstances, you find out even more.
I know he currently is sidelined from an injury standpoint. I don't know if he would have been involved in your point guard conversation, but we did see the news yesterday with rookie Cam Jones arrested. I believe the preliminary charges were reckless driving, resisting law enforcement. Any further info you can provide, or just the status on Cam Jones here?
Yeah, talked to him yesterday. He came in and he was very, very contrite, about the situation of being pulled over. This is a kid with exemplary character going back to his entire career at Marquette. After hearing the details of this, I think in the end, this is going to end up being a speeding ticket. A lot of times things that are on the police blotter are overblown. This is a kid that was driving a little faster than he should have been, trying to get to his workout and rehab thing. He was running a few minutes behind, and so he got pulled over, and the thing ended up in the news. So I think in the end it's going to be a speeding ticket probably, and he's going through a thing right now where he's got a back situation that is only going to heal with time in the hyperbaric chamber. Can't do too much moving around. It's got to be a very difficult thing to go through, particularly given our point guard situation for him. And yes, he would have been one of the guys in the conversation. So, I said a few days ago that, we would revisit, conversation about where he's at probably on November 9th when we were going to do the same thing with TJ McConnell. That'll be 1 month after TJ's injury, and then we'll see what's what from there. But, Cam's doing fine, and and this is going to be a blip on the radar screen.
Again, we have Rick Carlisle, head coach of the Indiana Pacers, joining us on the Pails Liquors hotline right now. Rick, speaking of your other rookie guard, Taylor Peter, what's impressed you the most about his ability to adapt to the NBA game, particularly perhaps on the defensive end, is what I've been looking at myself.
Yeah, he's just this is a kid. This is another Kevin Pritchard home run, in the second round. I mean, tough-minded, a little bigger than people think, strong, physical, NBA skill with his shooting. Right now we've got the guy taking reps at point guard, which he's never played in his life, up until the last preseason game. But that's kind of the bind we're in right now, with TJ out, with Quentin Jackson out, and with Cam Jones out. So, there's a lot of adjusting that's going on from a team standpoint, but this kid is resourceful, opportunistic. He's one of the best shooters in the country last year. Maybe may have even been the leading 3-point shooter in the country when he's at Liberty last year. So, taking advantage of opportunity here, high character. Our fans love him already, the ones that have seen him in preseason games. Hard-playing dude that's all about the team.
Yeah, certainly been impressed by him here in the preseason slate. It'll start for real coming up Thursday night, Pacers and Thunder inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Rick Carlisle with us here Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Coach, I was reading they do this annually on NBA.com, like a GM survey, and one of the things I was struck by the NBA GMs that responded to this was they asked, who runs or which head coach runs the best offense in the league. You were the overwhelming winner of that. I want to say it was north of 50%, and second was like all the way down at 10% on that list. Just in general with your offensive philosophy, I guess, where did it start, and how do you think maybe that side of the ball has evolved for you over the years?
Well, it probably started when my NBA playing career began in Boston. We were a team that had a lot of great players. I think 4 or 5 Hall of Famers when I first got there, and then we traded for Bill Walton. I think he became the 5th or 6th, and so we had a simple plan offensively. It was to play through the best players. We had plays, but we didn't call a lot of plays, and that's kind of how the game functioned. And I told a story. I don't know if I told it on this show or not, but when I went from Boston to the New York Knicks, Rick Pitino was the coach of the Knicks, and Stu Jackson was one of his assistants. And, these guys were meticulous game planners. They were the best of the best in terms of detail. And Stu came to me with, 3 or 4 diagram sheet pages of actions. And he said, Rick, what are these calls? And he had all these different things that were happening. And I said, Stu, they're just playing. I mean, he goes, these aren't plays? I said, no, they just play the game. This is really a flowing kind of freelance team. He's like, no, that can't be right. And so anyway, that was, and, we were finals three out of 3 years, won the championship in '86. And, I just became a strong believer in that kind of player empowerment, et cetera. And then, as I moved on in coaching, with as an assistant and then a head coach, I just was a believer in this kind of approach. And I've said this also. My background with music. I learned how to play the piano, and I'm really drawn to improvisational jazz because you listen to the same song, and every time you listen to it, it sounds a little different. And when you get immersed in music a certain way, that's how you see it. And music has probably influenced my view of basketball as well. Defenses are so sophisticated, trying to figure out how to guard situations, et cetera. I just always feel like the more we can make the game offensively look different every time down, the more difficult it's going to be for the defense. And so, all that stuff has influenced me. My teams in Dallas were very good flow teams. And look, we had great players. We had Nowitzki, we had Kidd, we had Jason Terry, and others. And here, it's been Tyrese, Pascal, and T.J. McConnell's been a big part of it. And of course, Miles Turner was a part of it. He's moved on. And so now we've got to change this recipe to the personnel we have available. So this is going to look different. And it'll be a work in progress, on certain levels. But I want our system to be a really fun system to play in, and for players to feel like they have real influence on what happens out there. And so that's where we're at.
Rick, to that point about your offense, we know a lot of it will go through Andrew Nembhard and your core four, but how do you view the center position right now? And I guess what are you hoping to get out of the center by committee approach?
Yeah, I'm not even sure who's going to start right this second. Isaiah Jackson started all 4 games, so certainly there's a possibility that he could be the starter. We've got to figure out, who fits where, and there will be challenges with this. I've mentioned this before. I'm sure if it's been on this show, but I've had a center by committee situation one year in Dallas when we had a successful year, and it took San Antonio to 7 games in the first round. The year they won it, 14, with guys that were not household names, but they were guys that were very good at what they did. So Sam Dellenberg was a great shot blocker and defender. DeJuan Blair was a guy that had great feel, and he had a big body, and he banged with some of the bigger centers, and he was a great rebounder. And then Brandon Wright was one of the best rim threats that I've ever seen in the NBA, and certainly ever coached. So it was rare in a game that year, or in a playoff game, that all 3 of them didn't play some minutes. So I don't know if it's going to look like that. We've got Isaiah, we've got Jay Huff, who we traded for, who's a stretch big. We've got Tony Bradley, who was a very important player for us last year in the playoffs. Matching up with guys like Mitchell Robinson, and Jared Allen, because he's a great rebounder and has great feel. And James Wiseman is in the mix too, and Wiseman has done some very good things in preseason. So, and then we have Obi Toppin, who played, a pretty significant number of minutes at 5 during the regular season as well as the playoffs last year. So, there's a lot of options there, and so we'll have to see how it all shakes out. But there's great opportunity. And the guys are working hard, so we'll see what's what.
Again, we have Rick Carlisle, Indiana Pacers head coach, joining us on the Paleo Circus hotline right now. And Rick, a lot of us have tuned into the Starting Five Netflix documentary on Tyrese Halliburton and a few other players in the NBA. I know you mentioned throughout the playoffs how much you loved or did not love the cameras being around you at all moments of the day. But as someone who experienced it firsthand, do you tune into those types of series, or are you someone who's just like, you know what, I have my fix living it out in real life?
Yeah, right now I've got other things I'm focusing on, but I've heard it's very good, and I've heard that it's very compelling. I mean, certainly had a lot of footage to choose from. And I know a lot of it, the vast majority of it was not even around our facility or our team in our, in the hotel and stuff like that. A lot of it was off-site, at Tyrese's home, or with his mom and dad, et cetera. So, from a human interest standpoint, I'm sure it's excellent. And, nowadays the access for that kind of stuff is, it's like never before, and players are very comfortable with cameras following them around and with microphones on and stuff like that, and it's all become a part of this business. And coaching's really not much different, over the years. As I've been president of the Coaches Association the last 20 years, and really in 2007, this is when a lot of the real true access stuff came into the fore. I've been telling our coaches for many years that coaching the games and coaching developing players and all that is always going to be the major part of it. But being on camera and in some ways being a content creator, I hate that word because it's one of the things that drives people, nuts in our profession. The people that come on with hot takes and all that kind of stuff. But in a way, it's really true. You're gonna have robotic cameras in the locker room. There's gonna be a lot of different approaches this year. I think there's gonna be a peacock game every Monday night where there's gonna be two guys. One guy's sitting almost on the bench of one team, and another guy's going to be on the bench of another. I think it's Austin Rivers and Robbie Hummel, and these guys are going to be trying to really get into the intimacies of the game. And so things are very ambitious in the world of access, which I completely understand. And this year with all the new broadcast partners, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 different carriers of NBA basketball, and on the one hand, it seems like it might be a bit confusing. On the other hand, I'm sure the network's going to make sure it's something that can be sorted out very easily.
I get, Coach, there's probably a little bit of a, hey, we got to move on from last year, but will you guys do anything pregame to honor, I don't know, full building in there to honor last year's team? I don't know if it's raising a banner for the Eastern Conference Championship or anything like that Thursday night.
My understanding is that there will be an acknowledgement of the Eastern Conference Championship banner. I don't know that it's going to be a long drawn out thing. But I do think it's appropriate. We had our annual meeting with all of our doctors last night. We have a really, rare situation. We have specialists from virtually every aspect of medicine that are available to our players, coaches too, luckily, really on a moment's notice. And so every year we honor them. We bring them together with a dinner. And one of the things that we did last night was all the doctors, if they wanted to, got a picture with me and Kevin Pritchard and the Eastern Conference Championship trophy, which was kind of cool. It's a really nice trophy. It's actually quite a bit nicer than the one they gave us in 2011. So that was cool. But yeah, no, last year was really great, and there was so much about it that was moving and inspirational, etc. It got our fans really going. But once that acknowledgement happens, we're into the realities of this year and some of the challenges that we have right off the bat, and we're playing the world champions, with Oklahoma coming in here. So there'll be a lot going on, but a lot of challenges that we're looking forward to.
Last one, and let you get out of here, Rick. We saw you get dressed up for your daughter's sorority formal. We had the bow tie on. Used to seeing you in the pullover or something like that, Pacers version. So how awesome was that to just get that slice of life, real life, before you get back to the grind?
Yeah, it was an amazing night, and it's the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority parents formal, and it was wonderful. A great night in Charlottesville. The weather there over the last 7 weeks has been like mid-70s and sunny, and just a light breeze. It's just been unreal. It's one of the most bucolic places you're ever going to find in life, and getting to spend that evening with her was really special. So very grateful to the organization for saying, yeah, that's okay to do that, and appreciate you asking.
You more of a petting zoo party guy at UVA, or are you more of a get dressed up for the formal guy?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't even begin to know how to answer that question. I think for the I think I'd have to say probably as little as I like to get dressed up, probably a little more of a parent's formal person than what do they call it? The Zate petting zoo or whatever it was. I ended up at one of those parties last year, but that's unlikely to happen in the future.
Well, you look sharp, and certainly looked like an awesome moment for you guys over the weekend. Again, Pacers Thunder starting Thursday night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and we are very, very appreciative of Tuesdays, 8 o'clock with the head coach of the Pacers, Rick Carlisle. Coach, thank you. Good luck, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Take care.
Rick Carlisle, Payless Liquors Hotline. A ton to recap from that, but Mark Dykton, let's go ahead and check it out.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
As Kevin said a moment ago, game number 1 for the 25-26 season comes your way Thursday night over at the Fieldhouse against Oklahoma City. And, of course, the big news, Aaron Nesmith signs a 2-year, $40 million extension. He'll be around for a couple of more years, right along with Tyrese Halliburton, as a matter of fact.
I believe he is under contract through the 2028-29 season, which will put him at about 30 years old, so right in the middle of his prime still, and I think it's a well-deserved bonus/raise for a player who, like Rick Carlisle laid out, has really come into his own here with the Pacers.
And one contract that didn't get extended yesterday by the NBA deadline before the season started was that of not Aaron Nesmith, but Benedict Mathurin. Are you a little surprised that one didn't get done?
I'm not. I think we've talked about it all season long. I think for both parties, it made some sense to probably let this season play out. It's a hell of an opportunity for Mathurin. It's a pretty unique one just based off how you've utilized him in years past. So it's going to be a storyline all year long. The Pacers need him to carry a big-time scoring burden, and as Rick Carlisle said those many times, need him to do some other stuff to really, I think, kind of satisfy what they're looking for. So I can't wait for Thursday night. We should note Thunder play tonight. I believe Jalen Williams, who battled that wrist in the NBA Finals, he's out for tonight. So just something to keep an eye on as the Pacers welcome the Thunder coming up on Thursday.
All right, National Football League had a doubleheader last night on Monday Night Football. First game went to the Detroit Lions. They were winners at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 24-9 the final score there. Jahmyr Gibbs, 17 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. That team looked good last night. Meanwhile, the Seahawks won the nightcap over the Houston Texans 27-19. That always helps when an AFC South team loses for the Indianapolis Colts, who are 6-1, and they'll be hosting an AFC South opponent on Sunday. 4:25 late kickoff against the Tennessee Titans. You don't expect to see a lot of Titans-Colts games at 4:25 in the afternoon, James.
I told you that 1 p.m. is God's time when it comes to football. So the fact that this game's kicking off at 4:25 is a sin, in my opinion, on a Sunday. But looking forward to being back at Lucas Oil Stadium and a chance to move to 7-1 on the year. And I expect that to be the case, considering just how much the Titans have struggled and how much the Colts have been rolling teams.
All right, we know who the participants in the 2025 World Series are going to be. The Dodgers, after getting a sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers, are already waiting for now the Toronto Blue Jays, who won Game 7 of the ALCS last night on a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 7th from George Springer. They beat the Mariners by a score of 4-3. They go to the World Series for the third time in franchise history, denying the Mariners their first ever chance to play in the World Series. 2 games tonight to kick off tip off the NBA season. Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder play at 7:30. Golden State Warriors, Los Angeles Lakers at 10. Both games can be seen on NBC or Peacock tonight. For your viewing pleasure. You were just talking about all the different streaming services that the NBA is offering this year. Rick was very bullish on that. He was like, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, the Hummel-Austin Rivers thing sounds a bit unique. I'll be curious how that exactly plays out. So, seemingly Robbie Hummel, I think, has done every Purdue and Indiana game that I've watched over the last 3 years. I can only imagine how busy his schedule now continues to be.
And Michael Jordan will be a special contributor on NBC all year long. Nobody knows what that means.
A couple other things I'll add. IMS oval testing. I don't think it's a ton of guys out there the next 2 days, but you will have. I think it's a little bit more equipment related. Some changes. I think to turn 2 I saw. So you'll hear some cars over there at 16th and Georgetown. And again, the best to Matthew Graves, head coach of the Indiana State Sycamores. I think the Graves family is well known around this state when it comes to basketball lore, and by all accounts, Matthew Graves is a terrific individual. He underwent triple bypass surgery on Monday morning out there in Terre Haute. So going to take a leave of absence. Best to him and his family here. Mark Schlesinger, Ellettsville's own, will be the acting head coach here for the Sycamores as they get started.
All right, anything else you want to throw in, JB?
No, I think that is all that I have. I'm just looking forward to, getting back at it when it comes to Colts practice tomorrow and seeing if they can keep this streak going.
All right, we'll talk more about the Colts, their current injury situation, more on all of the conversation the guys had with Rick Carlisle coming up in just a minute. Joel A. Erickson talks Colts and NFL at 9 o'clock. It's all right in front of us on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good to hear from Rick Carlisle, the head coach of the Indiana Pacers, with JB and KB just a moment ago, and talking about a number of things as we get ready to move on to the season as far as depth and injuries and all those things with so much up in the air. What was your big takeaway, James, from the way he sees rotations at the first part of the season?
Well, I think it was a couple of things. It was still being very fluid when it comes to who is going to help alleviate some of that point guard pressure on Andrew Nembhard, especially considering the injuries to that position right now. And then also at center, not really having a set answer there. He said, hey, Isaiah Jackson started all 4 games, I believe, during the preseason, but we're still open to, looking at what other guys maybe have to offer. And so those are the two, I guess, team-related things that I'm most focused on. And then obviously, Kevin, he did give, I think, a pretty thorough update on Cam Jones and his arrest yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't get the vibe at all, James, that they are all of a sudden making a point guard move in the next hour before they start practice here coming up at 12:30. Sometimes you see this, NFL, for example, and I get the rosters are much bigger, but you set the initial roster and then you tinker with it a little bit. And maybe they will, but it didn't sound like 4 centers right now, really 1, I guess 2, and Ray J. Dennis, healthy point guards, and Ray J's on a 2-way deal. It doesn't sound like a huge amount of urgency to necessarily go out there and add the next Cameron Payne, the next DeLon Wright, the next Monte Morris, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, I think, a question a lot of fans had with Thursday night getting here. And, yeah, I would say the Cam Jones thing, I don't know. Rick probably, I don't know, downplayed it, or I don't know, thought it was a tad overblown. I think that's I'm paraphrasing, obviously. We'll play that audio maybe coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, but he doesn't seem to be too concerned by yesterday's Cam Jones arrest.
No, I basically said at the end of the day, it'll just probably end up being a speeding ticket.
Right.
That's kind of what he said. So we'll keep an eye on that and figure out what the Pacers have to do with, as far as, I think, again, just depth more than anything starting off the season. I don't mind. I think there's probably times you see Obi Toppin joining some of those guys.
I think Obi Toppin with the starting 5 is probably your best 5-man unit. The question you would have specifically for Thursday night is, we know that opponent very, very well. Yeah. And Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein are quite the big dudes. So how do you counter that? There are some opponents where you can get by, I think, with extended.
Yeah, I think that's like a gimmicky kind of lineup where, like, you can do it for certain spurts and you can turn to it for a spark, like they did, honestly, last year when Tyrese Halliburton was healthy. When Obi played the 5, they were running and moving and doing all these things. But we all knew you can't sustain that over a 48-minute game with Obi at the 5. He's just not a center, a true center. So, yeah, I would agree there, Kevin. But, man, I'm like, there's certain things you can't make up for when you just don't have the height and the weight and, the things that OKC and other teams have to offer when it comes to their big men.
Well, then taking Obi out of the second unit is also a huge loss.
Oh, good point.
I
You start to look
at what your second unit makeup would be without Obi. I mean, it's let's call Ray J. Dennis the backup point guard just to say it. Okay, him, Shepard, Jarris Walker, Furphy, some center. I don't know what that would look like if Obi then were to bump up. So definitely some questions. From a starting lineup rotational standpoint, much different than recent years when, for the most part, you knew what it was going to be.
I can't wait for this season just to see how Rick manages all of this, especially with injuries to that second unit to start the season off. And it sounds kind of like all the things that he said today and what I've been reading sounds, Kevin, like he's kind of curious to see how it all works out too, as he's going to try a bunch of different things to start with.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's there's an intrigue to that. I'm sure there's a balance between intrigue and, it can make you a little maddening of, Halliburton in street clothes. I'd much rather have him not rocking that. And, obviously center rotation. Sure, he's done it before in Dallas, but Miles Turner is a pretty quality player as well.
Well, I just know this is an entertaining team, and I don't know, everybody's talking about 37.5 wins. I still feel like that's an achievable over for the Pacers. I feel good about that. But they're going to have their challenges. There's no question about that, probably against some of the deeper, better teams as time goes on. But I still think that they're going to be a tough out for anybody that comes in here, especially in the second, third, or fourth game of a road trip. It's going to be tough. They're not going to get out of here easily.
By the way, Joel A. Erickson going to join us coming up at 9. James, I know you and I have talked about this One thing Joel does a wonderful job covering the Colts. One thing in particular I think he's done a really nice job of here within the start of the season. He has published 2 features on the Irsay daughter so far. I believe the third one on Kaylin Jackson is coming up. It looks like he's gone in birth order, if you will. So he started with Carly, who you see, of course, on the sidelines, and then Casey Foyt was last week, I believe, maybe the week prior to that. So among on-field Colts items with Joel A. Erickson, I think we'll chat about that with him when he joins us here coming up at 9 o'clock. Maybe skip over the baseball, Mark.
Oh, what are you talking about? His Brewers made to the NLCS. Why wouldn't we talk about that?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, though.
Are they going to get a banner?
They should.
Chris Hagan, Fox 59, he was brutal to Joel. We were on the road in L.A. I mean, they showed something about the Dodgers being in the World Series at the stadium in SoFi, and Hagan said, hey, Joel, look up. And, yeah, I expected to see some punches
Joel
thrown
should
in
have
that
brought up
press box.
Mississippi State football.
He did. But, Hagan, as a true fan of a losing team, he said, hey, I'm used to this type of pain. So
I'd say Hagan if you're listening, but Lord knows he's deep in REM sleep. He only shows up to
my
J&B.
boy not getting up before 12.
No.
All right, we've got that to talk about. Pacers opening night. And, of course, Indiana is ranked number 2 in the nation. Kurt Signetti already pumping up UCLA for this week. We'll talk about some of those things next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for being with us here on the Fan Morning Show. In case you missed it, we'll have it up later today, the Rick Carlisle conversation with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen. What time that usually get posted, Mark?
Posted already, man.
Look at you.
I'm
You're
a pro.
on fire.
I was going to say, we should know this by now,
You're
right?
on fire.
But
Download it.
But don't
Save
listen to it just yet.
Save it for 10:01.
It's good stuff. You want to hear that. And this is, I think we all go into this season like, what do we expect? No Miles Turner. No Tyrese Halliburton. Everybody banged up in the second unit. This, it was 10 and 15 for the first 25 games last year because of some injuries. Are we looking at the same kind of start again? I don't think anybody know. I mean, obviously we don't know at this point in time, but I don't know what to expect other than I think this team, based on the experience of last year, going to win games that people think that they're not going to be able to win.
I mentioned about an hour ago, and I think Rick Carlisle kind of confirmed that. I think the schedule's really tough out of the gate. I mean, not just the Thunder opening night, but you go on the road for those first three. I think John Morant is supposed to be healthy. I know Zach Edey's out for the Grizzlies, for those that care from a local standpoint. And then you go out west pretty early in November. You've got the Miles Turner return game on that Monday there. So, you're going to see, I think, quite a test here early in the season. So, yeah, I mean, there definitely could be some growing pains with a lot of new, not necessarily new faces, but guys just in new, different, expanded roles.
Yeah, and looking forward to opening night Thursday. You'll hear it live right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan as the Pacers get rolling against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And again, double header for NBA tonight. Scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in opening night on network TV, NBC tonight, James?
I'm usually pretty high on the opening games as a basketball guy, my first sport that I ever loved growing up. And I know Steph Curry is in one of those games. I believe it was supposed to be Steph Curry and LeBron, but LeBron's out. But I think personally, just knowing my era of basketball I grew up on, I'm like, I don't want to miss too many more of the LeBron, Steph Curry, KD games just because they're not going to be here forever. I feel like this is, the last wave of that. So excited to see Steph do his thing I believe he's going into like his 17th year. And I want to say KD's in his 19th year and LeBron's going into 23. So, yeah, I got to cherish these guys while I still have them.
I think the first time you hear Round Ball Rock tonight,
yeah,
and it goes NBA on NBC, that's going to hit like some crack in the 80s.
That's an interesting way to describe it, but I am looking forward to seeing.
I'll take your word for it,
I was
Mark.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never had the first-hand experience
Neither
of cracking
have I,
the
but
80s.
I just remember
3-year-old Mark with a nice line and a credit card ready to go to work here.
That's just a core memory of a young sports fan, Mark Dykton, of hearing Round Ball
The
Rock.
song,
Like,
not
yes.
the crack.
Okay, yeah, just making
Marv
sure.
Albert biting prostitutes and getting ready to call a great basketball game.
How did I know you were going
Let's
to
hope
go
that
right
no
there
children are
with
listening.
Marv?
How
did I know that's where you were
on
going
the
to go?
Wikipedia page? I remember that.
Hey, I was about to say, a couple things
well.
on the Wikipedia page when it comes to a few people out there. Yes.
Who wins the Eastern Conference?
Well, I like this question. I'm going to say this, and I feel like I'm going to get booed immediately.
If you say it. If I think I know where you're going.
The Knicks?
Oh, okay.
I feel like they're healthy.
Where do you think he was going, Mark?
I thought he might go Cleveland. I thought he even might go Milwaukee.
Oh, I would think more of our audience would want you to boo the Knicks than boo Cleveland.
Well, the Milwaukee one was
I
where
think
I
it was probably
thinking.
Milwaukee.
Got
yeah.
it, okay.
I will go, man, I think it's a toss-up between the Knicks and perhaps the Cavs.
I mean, the Knicks probably have the most personnel back.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
healthy.
Continuity,
Cleveland's a little
health.
banged up.
Yeah.
Now,
that's
obviously, they have a new coach. which
that is true.
is
But Mike
different.
Brown has taken a team to the finals as the coach. He's been a championship coach as an assistant. Like, he's not some no-name guy, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, outside of the Thunder, now I'm involved in the West, of course, but good luck picking 2 through whatever out West. And then the East, good luck picking 1 through 8. I mean, it's, do we see any team, like, are the Magic ready?
No.
I
They're
feel like
the
for
third favorite odds. I don't believe
I
in
know,
them.
but
I
I
know.
mean, if you look at
But
that
it's wide
core,
open.
it's
That's
a
what-
core that's been together.
that's why the
and
Halliburton injury hurts me so much.
Boncaro just coming into his prime now,
People
too.
talk about them in a similar light to how they've talked about the Pacers in recent years. I mean, somebody's got to be up there. I mean,
Yeah,
without
that's
Tatum,
true.
without Halliburton, I mean, no one's betting on the freaking Sixers. So, yeah, New York or Cleveland would probably be the two that I would come back to.
The Cavs are the overwhelming favorite
That's
to win
who I
the
would
East.
pick. Is the
But
Cavs.
Garland's got a toe injury still, right?
Yeah, he's not going to start the year.
I contractually cannot pick any New York team to ever win anything, and I hope the Knicks fall on their face and crash. before it's all said and done. I can't see. There's just something about that team in that building with that owner. I don't think they can get out of their own way for one reason or the other.
Dang, where does this Knicks hate come from?
Just in general. Just New York in general.
Dang. I was like, did you grow up?
No.
I'm like, I know you're from Colorado, but.
Love going. To me, it's like Las Vegas. I love going to New York City, but I can't wait to leave either.
Dang. I'm going to say, I like New York, the city now.
It's fun to go, but Knicks, I can't wait to get out of there either. So.
Well, Knicks hate will always be welcome on these airwaves, I think, for a lot of the listeners out there.
Jeff's feet touch New York City gives it a good farmer's blow right on the sidewalk. That's what I think of you.
You're on fire today, Mark. Did you see the reference there?
Albert.
No, I'm excited. I am excited to see as a broadcast nerd. I'm really excited to see what the first 5 minutes of that NBC getting the NBA back tonight is going to look like. I think they probably have something pretty cool planned.
And then later in the season, we get the Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Ernie Johnson sort of mix on ESPN. Now, I'm still confused by all that.
I don't know when that starts. I don't know what the deal is with it. I'm confused.
I just hope that they're there for the playoffs. So
Shout out Kenny Smith as well.
They can start sending teams fishing. That's all I want. I love that. I love just the dynamic between those guys.
You have DJ and Indy say, preach it. Drink the tears of the New York fan base for fuel.
I like him all of a sudden. Not all of a sudden, but
I know.
I'm digging that right there. Now, I don't know why. I've just always had a dislike for New York teams.
Hey, more power to you.
That's just how that goes. All right, we got a busy show still to come. Joel A. Erickson is going to come by if Mark doesn't completely offend him by the pre-interview discussion there, bringing up the Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm not going to bring him up at all. Why would I? I mean, he should be proud of his team. They made it to the NLCS. What's not to be proud of?
Is that true? Is that the true Mark Dykton speaking?
Well, what other Mark Dykton would be speaking right now?
You sound like
the troll one, the one that I know a lot more about.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
It's radio. I wish you could see the look on his face. Right, his smug doesn't even begin.
I know. I take one trip to California. You think I'm falling for when I come back? Not doing it.
All right, we're going to be talking to Joel A. Erickson about that and a little bit more on the conversation that was just had with Rick Carlisle as we are getting ready for NBA opening night tonight. But for the Pacers, it'll be over at the Fieldhouse on Thursday night. And once again, it just feels like, man, after that 7-game series and a preseason game, like the Thunder won't go away, Kevin. Just make them go away.
They're here. Is this a UCLA quarterback going to play against IU on Saturday? Nico?
I don't know.
His last name is always hard for me to say.
Imalaiva, something like that?
Yeah, he's the one who transferred from Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah.
And he got hurt late in their game. I'm a little surprised the line is as big as it is, 24.5. Yeah, I think that's a bit of a storyline coming up. Big noon kickoff here on Sunday.
Yeah, and Kurt Signotti's already talking them up. We'll hear some of his comments on that a little bit later on the show as well. Text line is open, 239-1070. Would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on everything we've been talking about, but we'll dive deeper into the Colts and their 6-1 start and what lies ahead next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Say that again out loud on the radio, Mark, about Smashing Pumpkins.
I love this song. Great song by Smashing Pumpkins. It's called Zero, for those of you who like to know the names of the songs. It's called Zero, and I believe Joel A. Erickson of the Indy Stars is joining us right now.
Jeez.
What? This is a good song.
You just
One of my favorites on Spotify.
Joel, do you want me to punch him?
Trolling. Good morning, Joel.
Didn't your team lose to Joel A. Erickson's team? Did I miss something?
Kevin, that's all ancient history at this point.
Oh, my gosh. This is pathetic by Mark. This is worse than he was trying to complain about the officials when the Bears gave up 50
I'm not
this
complaining
year.
at all.
Joel,
This is a good song. I
just know that your team is where Mark's team went to die this year. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where Mark's going with this one. It's pretty tough to. They played my team in the playoffs and lost. So.
Yeah. I agree.
James, as the resident expert on trash talk, what's Mark got a chance to stand on here?
Here's
they
my
hung the L flag, and then they won 0 games from then out.
Exactly. That's where you go. You say, hey, we won the same amount of games in the next series.
Yeah.
So Mark, who has played like every Cubs song possible, when I come on the radio, is upset that the Brewers trolled the Cubs after beating them.
This is a new low.
It's the little brother syndrome. That's all it is.
We're here scratching his back, man. This is pathetic. I can't believe he stooped to this level.
Kevin suggested this song.
Hell no.
Good morning, Joel. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're great. Thanks for joining us as always on the Payless Liquors hotline. 6-1 in leading so many offensive categories and number 1 ranked in the AFC. Like, it does not appear like this train is going to slow down. What do you think so far of this Colts team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of at the point now where we should expect this Colts offense to be great until they honestly, it's not even just one performance anymore. It's got to be a bunch of performances go wrong in a row before we readjust, because, you know, that Chargers team coming in, their passing stats were like, this is a top 5 pass defense. The Colts went out and Daniel Jones threw for 288 yards and they had 400 yards, and you know there's nothing to. I know there's still people saying some stuff about the schedule, but the Broncos are like a top up until Sunday were like a top 2 defense. They're just really good on offense. They're really balanced. They've got a good offensive line. They don't have to run JT all the time, so when they do, it's even more effective. And they got a whole bunch of different weapons. It's really hard to find a weakness in the way the Colts have played offense so far.
Joel, it's foreign for Chris Ballard to sit here at this part of the season and be in the position that they are. I tend to think he will be looking at making a move. Now, where exactly that happens, though, I think is a pretty good debate, so I'll throw it your way. You think cornerback, or you think defensive end is more pressing right now?
I think it's cornerback. I just think, you know, they're not getting as much edge rush as I think most people would like to see. It's still a DeForest Buckner heavy pass rush from the inside, but they have players. You know, if there were more serious injuries to Ebicom and Tyquan Lewis, it doesn't sound like those injuries are long term. You know, I think maybe you could make the edge rusher argument a little bit better. The argument against corner to me is really just that there don't seem to be a bunch of good ones out there on the market. But the situation they're in, just in terms of depth and injury and not knowing when people are going to be back. So, like, if it was me, I'd go get a corner. And I think the other thing is Chris Ballard himself has signaled to us all offseason that this defense needs cornerbacks. You know, they clearly don't have answers too, because they played Cameron Mitchell and Jonathan Edwards about the same amount on Sunday. They need to find somebody who they can feel like they can play them with these guys on the injured reserve.
Could you make the argument Javarius Ward will be back at some point, and there's no Javarius Ward at defensive end?
I think you could. And you could also make the argument that, you know, at the trade deadline, you take what's available. And so if there's pass rushers available, you can do that. I think you could make that argument. I just think that we've seen games already. The Rams game is one of them where they're getting pressure off the edge, and it doesn't matter because the corners can't hold up long enough to make the quarterback hold the ball. So I just think they got to have help at that cornerback position.
And again, we have Joel A. Erickson joining us from Indy Star on the Payless Liquors hotline. And Joel, I must admit, you might have the biggest man crush on DeForest Buckner. There is no greater appreciator.
I thought you were going to say Rigo Sanchez.
Of what? I mean, first of all, Joel has a crush on anything that looks weird in football, that looks old school in football, and that hurts my brain
and
in
happens
football.
on fourth down.
Exactly. He's the guy who keeps up with all the weird intricacies. You were on the Zoom call a couple weeks ago, Kevin, where we had special teams coordinator Brian Mason join. He gives Joel a shout out because he noticed some weird thing in practice. And I'm like, of course Joel noticed this. So getting back to the point, how would you describe the performance that DeForest Buckner put on Sunday and the level he's playing at this season?
The hard thing with Buckner is that with pass rushers, everyone always looks at sacks. And I think that's kind of what's happened to Buckner is just that from a national perspective, he doesn't get the same credit that a Chris Jones gets or some of these other guys, just because honestly, the Colts haven't been good. But I kind of do this thing during games most of the time where I try to watch the line first, and then move on to where the ball's going. And Buckner has just faced so many double teams this year. He said after the game on Sunday, he said something about I was able to win my one-on-ones when I got him. I went back and watched his sacks. He didn't really get one-on-ones.
Right.
He got double teams where he beat one guy first and then the next guy second. So he kind of turned a double team into two one-on-ones. He's a guy I just don't think he's probably appreciated enough nationally for how good he is. He's right up there with those other defensive tackles, and it's just a matter of team success. A game like the other day, it's not a great Chargers offensive line, but he's got to fight through a double team on literally almost every snap.
If there is ever a moment in the history of football where DeForest Buckner is without fans, it is because Joel A. Erickson, something has happened to him. I got to go check on my buddy because that man gave him his flowers, and deservedly so. The tape is unbelievable from what we saw from DeForest Buckner.
Rigo or Buck?
Oh, man. Do I have to choose?
It's
That's
about
the
his
question. The father of three boys here is pausing.
I don't want to choose. I might have to go Rigo just to stay consistent.
Yeah, but Buckner's got enough people.
That's fair.
On his boat there. There's not enough.
I might have to go
boat.
Rigo. I might have to go with the Witch. He's the way the ball bounces on those punts. People aren't appreciating it now because he's not punting at all, which is great for the Colts. But you got to appreciate Rigo Sanchez when he's out there.
Yeah, it's bad for your fandom, and you carrying the flag for it. Joel A. Erickson from the Star with us here, Payless Liquors Hotline. Joel, we teased a little bit earlier. Really enjoyed reading so far too, and feel free to tease when the Kalen Jackson feature will be published. But you've written on both the older Irsay daughters so far, Carly and Casey. I think excellent reads, just great backgrounds, particularly Casey, who is probably the least in the spotlight. From an organizational standpoint, yes, she is married to a Foyt. Really, really well done. Kind of how did that idea start, and just any grand takeaways you've had in chatting with them?
Well, I think it's something that we've kind of wanted to do for a while, and the idea was really not necessarily to write something that where we slam in on all of the issues pertaining to the team and do do the super newsy stuff. The idea was to sort of introduce these three people to the city of Indianapolis in whatever way we could, because we knew a ton about Jim Irsay and his likes and dislikes and how he thought and everything. We didn't know as much about the people taking over for him, and so that's kind of where the genesis of the story went. I think one of the things that maybe is the biggest takeaway is that I think when they took over, there was sort of this feeling, or the way it was talked about was they're stepping into this new role that they haven't, this new role. It is new in terms of them being the three of them with Carly obviously being the principal owner, being the primary owners. But the thing I think sticks out to me is that it's really not new for them. They've been doing this stuff for a really, really long time, and the thing that changed is just that they're officially in charge.
Talking to Joel A. Erickson.
And the Kalen one?
Yep.
Is it coming out?
It should be. I was working on that last night, and it will come down to when the right time to publish it is from the Indy Star offices. So that one is coming soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming soon.
I'll tell him to keep a move on it. I troll Joel with this after every game because we were in LA last week, and obviously all the other stories that he does, and I tell him, hey, I'm a subscriber, so I need those stories on time, and he certainly feeds the beast. So shout out to Indy Star.
He's gonna be telling Mark to kiss his ass after telling you to kiss his ass.
Well, I mean, he knows. I feel like Joel just kind of like the little brother. He just looks at me and he goes, yeah, I'm going to just tune this guy out for the moment and get back to work, which usually is, and I'd imagine that's why he's so successful at what he does.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it is just the way it works with us being the local paper. Like, there's more that needs to be written from me, and now we have Nathan Brown on the beat too, so I've got some help. But for the first 7 weeks of the season, it wasn't. So like, what James is kind of referring to is, like, on Sunday we got to the press box and I was like, so there's 8 things I could write, and like, I think somebody else would have to make the decision. I think I wrote 5 of them or 6 of them, depending on when you want to do that. And James is always like, hey, you got to have that up before you get to the radio show, just in case there's something I didn't know about.
There you go. I'm serious.
By the way, shout out to Nathan Brown. I know that was announced yesterday on social, but for those unfamiliar, if you remember Nate Atkins, Joel's sidekick, covering the Colts here for the last couple of years. He's now with the Rams. He's now a colleague of James Boyd over at The Athletic covering the Rams. Nathan Brown will slide over from the IndyCar beat, which I think the IndyCar beat would be one of the harder ones out there to cover. And I thought Nathan did such a great job at the start. I worked with him back at the IDS way back in the day, and was always very admiring, frankly, of his work ethic. So looking forward to having him join the beat. It's a loss for IndyCar, but good news for Joel A. Erickson and his workload.
I think the coolest thing to see was yesterday after Nathan, put his I'm headed to the Colts beat message there on the social media accounts. So seeing how many people are like, the Indy Star is where I go for IndyCar coverage, and I live in Japan or somewhere on the West Coast or something like that. That stuff is really neat. It's a unique position that he's had, and now he gets to come learn the NFL, which we've done this before, where Jim Aiello was, he was covering IndyCar and then shifted over. So, it's exciting to have somebody else on the beat, and he gets to come along at a really nice time. He's not coming in where they're, 2-5 or 3-4 and everyone's upset. He's coming in the opposite way.
Joe, I'm just curious, 14.5 point spread for the Colts and the Titans this coming weekend. We know the NFL is an any given Sunday, but it doesn't look good for the Titans right now. Is that line more an indication of how good the Colts are thought to be, or how bad the Titans are, or a little bit of both?
Man, I'm not the biggest betting expert, but I don't feel like you see lines like 14.5 in the NFL very often. That feels more like a good SEC team versus a bad Big 12 team type of line or something. I don't know. I think it's probably both. I think the answer is probably both. People are realizing that the Colts just put up points. They just score points every week, regardless of the matchup. And I think the other thing is just this Titans team doesn't have a head coach. They feel pretty rudderless at the moment, and that's how you get one of the bigger lines you're going to see in the NFL.
Joel, the Colts, this will be the 12th time, assuming this holds, since 2000 they've been a 2-touchdown favorite. They are 10-1 in such games. Can you recall the one?
I cannot. I'm bad with betting lines. I'm terrible with betting lines.
This had to be was it Jacksonville?
You joined the beat when?
2018. It's 2018. So is it the season opener in 2020?
A Colts player who made a special teams tackle on Sunday scored the first touchdown in this game for the opponent.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Oh, it's Nyheim Hines.
No.
Right?
No. James Boyd, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm missing the game. Yeah,
I'm going to
not
say
getting it.
it's Laquan Treadwell.
Laquan Treadwell
And
as
he
a
was-
Jacksonville Jaguar, the season finale in 2021.
Knew it. That game
Man.
is just cursed.
And yes, indeed, that was Carson Wentz's
if Daniel
final
Jones
game.
if Daniel Jones beats Jacksonville in Jacksonville, does that make him does that make him the ultimate?
Yeah, oh yeah. I've said this before. The Peyton Manning statue goes to Shapiro's parking lot, and Daniel Jones' statue goes out front.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones walked into the locker room after the game, Joel, with an extension in hand and says, I already signed. All I need you to do is add a couple zeros, and then you can sign.
And is this right? The Colts were down 26-3 in that game with 5 minutes to go. God,
That is right. Yeah, that is right.
And that was they had to win to get in, right?
I still think though that the most confusing one in the Jacksonville streak is when the 2018, right after I got on the beat, when the 2018 Colts were in the middle of running off 10 wins in 11 games, and the one game they lost was to like Cody Kessler.
Yeah, 6-0
in Jacksonville, and they scored no points. That one is the one that I still can't I can't process
that one more so than Phillip Rivers losing to, was it Urban Meyer? I'm trying to think who the head coach would have been in 2020. Didn't Jacksonville go 1-15 and their only win was over the Colts?
They did, but like some of that you just kind of go like, season opener.
Yeah, COVID year
stuff. That team didn't really hit its stride until after that Rivers Cleveland Browns game. The Andrew Luck one. The other thing is I think that there's also a personal element to me. I had this story geared up on the Colts offense and how they'd found balance, and we had to push it back like a month because my editor correctly was like, well, we can't run a story about how good the offense is after they scored no points in Jacksonville.
Yeah, all I remember is a million red zone drives and none of them working, and them like going for it constantly on fourth down. Joel, thank you for the time, and I will say respectfully, Mark Dykton, kiss Joel's ass.
Wow.
My thing is, why didn't they use the W flag? Why'd they do the L flag? Because now you have a meme for 20 years.
Because your team lost.
But the Brewers won. Wouldn't you hang the W flag?
We don't fly a flag. That's only a Chicago thing.
You run bratwursts down the outfield.
All right, this is going nowhere.
I'm just saying.
That's better than a flag.
Yeah, Joel, let me know if you want me to punch him. I will.
It sounds like two fourth graders just bickering at
Your mom. No, your mom.
Joel, thank you.
We're going to play Pogs later.
We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Joel. Man, does he put up with a lot from us. Every
I
week.
know. Us? Stop this. It's
Every
all
week.
Mark.
Every week.
Yeah.
Mark is just hammering him.
I will say Joel's one of my
Kevin's like,
favorite
you got
humans.
something for Joel, right? I'm like, yeah, sure, hold on.
No, that is not what I said at all. I think Joel's one of the most
Kevin
stand-up
low-key is
individuals that I
sneaky
have
about this stuff.
come across in this business. There's not a lot of stand-up individuals in our industry. Joel's one of them.
Oh, man. All right. This guy's landing
what
on
about
very
the rest
thick
of our
right now.
guests? What are you saying?
Well, most of them are out there. By the way, Scott
I was going to say, one of our guests gives us bets every Thursday, so I'm not sure if he's always the most.
As long as he's winning.
Shout out Jason Hammer.
Scott Dolson tomorrow. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
So the IUAD will join us, who was a busy man last week.
And by all accounts, people are liking what Darian DeVries is doing, and we all know about Kurt Signetti. We'll hear from him a little bit later on in the show, too. But, yeah, Scott Dolson tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And talking about all things Indiana athletics. They got to be feeling – I know that they're hopeful and optimistic about the basketball team, but they got a lot like nobody still knows. I mean, yeah, big win over Marion. You'd kind of expect that. So what happens next?
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm like, you lose to Marion, we got problems.
Yeah. All right, let's check everything down and let you know what you need to know for today right here, right now.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Now, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Colts are 6-1 right now, on top of the entire AFC. They are on a torrid pace for scoring
Entire
points.
NFL, right?
Last time a Colts team in the entire history of the franchise did these kinds of numbers, Johnny Unitas was the quarterback, and they went on to win an NFL championship game back in the day, Kevin Bowen. That's what we're dealing with right now. So we'll see if they can keep it going against maybe the worst team in the league coming up on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, they're not the worst.
425. You don't think they're the worst team in the league?
Shout out to the winless Jets.
Jets.
Who do you think? Who would you take?
Fireman Ed.
What would the line be between the Titans and the Jets right now?
I don't know. It'd be the toilet bowl, but I would certainly not take the Jets. I told you the Jets are bad in America. They're bad in New York. They're bad overseas. They're bad anywhere.
4:25 kicks Sunday afternoon, Lucas Oil Stadium. Kevin Munn, what are our injury updates as of yesterday when the last time we spoke to anybody from the Colts?
Not a whole lot. Taekwon Lewis listed as day-to-day with a groin injury. There's some reports about Samson Ebukam missing multiple weeks. Shane Steichen wouldn't confirm that. So, again, I think pass rush, I would disagree with Joel. I think pass rush is more pressing than corner right now. And if you have to factor in health, then I think that kind of adds to it. So, definitely something to keep an eye on, and could mean more snaps for JT Tuimoloau, who has not had a very big role here in his rookie campaign.
How many snaps has he taken so far this year?
I want to say it was 22 on Sunday. I don't know the official number if you add them all up, but it hasn't been much. And again, he's been a healthy scratch a few times.
All right, last night, doubleheader on Monday Night Football to wrap up the week in the NFL. Detroit Lions got a huge game from Jamar Gibbs, 136 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He added more than 80 receiving in that one. The Lions beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-9. And the Bucs kept getting the ball late in the fourth quarter. I don't know if you watched any of that game last night, but every time they got the ball, they just couldn't do anything with it. And they were right around midfield for most of the fourth quarter. They just could not get past the Detroit Lions.
Shout out to those no-name Lion DBs. They're really banged up, and they stepped up and made some huge plays against Baker Mayfield.
That a culture win?
Yeah, Dan Campbell will probably go there post-game. And hopefully the Mike Evans injury is not season-ending. He's been an incredibly durable and consistent player throughout his career, and he injured, it sounded like a collarbone last night, broke it, I believe.
Yeah, broken collarbone.
So we'll see if he can get back at some point here this season.
All right, later last night, the Seattle Seahawks at home beat the Houston Texans 27-19. Texans fall to 2-4 in the AFC South, but man, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 8 catches, 123 yards and a touchdown. He is clearly one of the top 3 or 4 receivers in the NFL right now. He's every week posting numbers like that, James.
He is playing very good football, and Sam Darnold also playing very good football.
Yeah. Also, Major League Baseball last night. We now have 2 contestants for the 2025 World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays got a 3-run home run from George Springer in the bottom of the 7th to beat the Mariners by a score of 4-3. They'll go back to the series for the first time since the 90s. The Mariners have never been there, and they were that close. 2-run lead with 2 2/3 innings to go and just couldn't quite close it down.
Mark, what in the world is this in the YouTube chat? People trying to justify the Cubs in the playoffs this year?
What are we talking about?
Is that Mark on the YouTube
Mark's
chat?
got one of his minions in here. You forgot to remind Joel the Cubs won 4 games in the playoffs and the Brewers won 3. Both played 2 series.
That's factually accurate.
It's just
it not?
all 3 came against the Cubs.
That does sound factually accurate.
I mean, we're all about facts here.
Who beat who when they lined up across from each other?
Well, yes, the Brewers won. Congratulations. And
the trolling me, I'm not gonna lie. I would always be like, if my team loses to your team and you lose in the next round, oh, come sit next to me in Cabo.
Spin
you losers.
USA here. George
like
Springer
Kevin jumping on the Reds bandwagon only for them to get torched in the wild card.
Well, if you would have asked me to wear the shirt again, maybe it would have been a different story for your team.
I didn't need your pity.
Game 1 of the World Series will be Friday night, 8 o'clock in Toronto. Blue Jays hosting the Los Angeles Dodgers. Still just floating after that game by Shohei Ohtani last week. Also, we can tell you NBA season opens up tonight. Pair of games there. Houston Rockets start things off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That one begins at 7:30 on both NBC and Peacock. That'll be followed up by Golden State in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Lakers. Scotty did confirm that it'll be Mike Tirico on the play-by-play for the first game and Noah Eagle for the second game in the NBA doubleheader. So that's what's going on there. Coming up this weekend, college football, number 2 Indiana, of course, hosting UCLA. Rutgers plays at Purdue. Notre Dame, I believe, has the week off to continue to get better.
Sounds like Ryan Brown, pretty iffy for Purdue. Their quarterback suffered a shoulder injury as they got shut out against Northwestern. So we'll see about his status. If Purdue is going to get any Big Ten win this year, you would think it would be Rutgers. I know Malachi Singleton, a decently highly ranked recruit, would get the start there.
And James, we talked about it in the first hour, but for those who missed it, Caitlin Clark is still listed as week to week. She's been playing basketball, but just some light 2-on-2, maybe 3-on-3. Stephanie White said she's not ready for 5-on-5 yet, and because they have the time, they're just going to take this as slowly as they possibly can.
Yes, I believe she said this to Chloe Peterson and the Indy Star staff on their podcast. So, again, you can listen to that after our show. But I would say for Caitlin Clark, honestly, just give me the update of when she's hooping again, 5-on-5. And honestly, even if you don't give me that, I'll just take a breather from all of that. I feel like just get healthy, and we'll check back in with you when, the next calendar year rolls around at this point.
Lord knows the WNBA has plenty of downtime in between seasons.
Yeah,
so.
And honestly, they probably need it after all the chaos they're going through right now with CBA arguments. And so I would imagine that Caitlin Clark is honestly a bigger voice in that right now versus where she's at injury-wise.
All right, coming up in a moment, we will listen to Curt Cignetti pump up the UCLA Bruins, who he is calling an undefeated team. Find out why next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, 9:30 here on a Tuesday. Reminder, Scott Dolson going to join us tomorrow. Looking forward to that conversation. The IU AD Tuesdays at 8 o'clock this time of year. It means Rick Carlisle. We had him on for the first time here coming up in this season. The Pacers will get underway Thursday, and part of yesterday's news cycle certainly involved, probably right around this time yesterday, the arrest of rookie Cam Jones. And, right now for the Pacers, Cam Jones dealing with an injury and was unlikely to play here to start the season. And I'm trying to think of the official charges. James, do you remember? It was speeding, and was it resisting law enforcement?
Yes. So he got charged with a Class A misdemeanor and a Level 6 felony.
So that was the initial report yesterday. Rick Carlisle shared his thoughts with us earlier today on the arrest of Cam Jones.
Yeah, talked to him yesterday. He came in and he was very, very contrite, about the situation of being pulled over. This is a kid with exemplary character going back to his entire career at Marquette. After hearing the details of this, I think in the end, this is going to end up being a speeding ticket. A lot of times things that are on the police blotter are overblown. This is a kid that was driving a little faster than he should have been, trying to get to his workout and rehab thing. He was running a few minutes behind, and so he got pulled over, and the thing ended up in the news. So I think in the end it's going to be a speeding ticket probably, and he's going through a thing right now where he's got a back situation that is only going to heal with time in the hyperbaric chamber. Can't do too much moving around. It's got to be a very difficult thing to go through, particularly given our point guard situation for him. And yes, he would have been one of the guys in the conversation. So, I said a few days ago that, we would revisit, conversation about where he's at probably on November 9th when we were going to do the same thing with TJ McConnell. That'll be 1 month after TJ's injury, and then we'll see what's what from there. But, Cam's doing fine, and and this is going to be a blip on the radar screen.
That's the head coach of the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle, talking about Cam Jones getting arrested yesterday. You mentioned level 6 felony in Indiana, James. That's the least serious felony charge, but it's still a felony.
I was going to say, I don't ever want to hear felony in my name in the same sentence, but it sounds like Rick feels a lot more optimistic about the situation versus the version that we got yesterday. So more to come from that. I believe his court date, I want to say, is Thursday the 23rd. So he's got to probably see a judge at some point to, get to the bottom of whatever took place yesterday.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. The Pacers get going on Thursday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That'll be over at the Fieldhouse. You'll hear it live on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan as the incredible high and then that crashing end to the season, I think carries over to a nice celebration of the team before the game starts on Thursday night. I think that'll be a raucous atmosphere over there.
Yeah, it's something that Rick alluded to. We asked him that kind of near the end, and you can catch that full interview up on our podcast page from earlier today. But yeah, it sounds like there will be some acknowledgement of the Eastern Conference champion. I'm totally good with it. I know we get into this debate, often, how much do you celebrate, non-championship seasons. But we had a listener point out to us, I think it was Noah, on the text line a little bit earlier, like when you win a trophy for something, I think it should be celebrated, and I would agree with that. You don't really get that opportunity, I think, in the preseason in front of a full house to acknowledge that group, and so I have no issue whatsoever, and I think the Pacers should have some sort of pregame situation. It's a little awkward that it's the Thunder in the building, but this just happens to be how the schedule laid out.
Yeah, see, I've always felt when it comes to banners, I agree with what he had to say. To me, you get championship banners, you put those things right in the middle of the arena. They're big, they're huge, you can't miss those things. I believe stuff like conference championships, I think you should have them, but I think those go up over kind of on the side as kind of something that we did. And I've always thought you could even have a banner for divisional championships where you just list the year that you won the divisional championship. So there's a definite order of the kinds of banners that you have.
I think Final Fours are big accomplishments from a college basketball standpoint. Yeah. And, obviously, you got Purdue listing, Big Ten championships. And I know a lot of Indiana Purdue fans go back and forth on the old banner debate and the dustiness of some banners and the lack of national titles for other banners. So, I'm totally fine with, to me, that's an accomplishment. Like, just because the Pacers fell one game short, Notre Dame falls a game short, you're a pretty sick fan if the only thing you care about is hoisting that trophy.
I think the Pacers banner should say, OKC got lucky.
Put it in parentheses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not in parentheses. Put it in bold. Put Tyrese at, just have, we have all this technology. Just put a little montage
Tyrese can
up
raise
there.
that himself. He's the one over there doing the old, cord to raise the banner.
Can we have the Brooklyn Nets raise a Eastern Conference participant banner? We're here. We played 82.
Yeah, it's gonna be some nasty games out there for sure. But I'm very curious to see how the season unfolds for the Eastern Conference and where the Pacers stack up. But yeah, going back to Kevin's question from earlier, who's gonna win the East? I think that's what makes this sting the most is considering the injuries to other teams. If Halliburton were healthy, it would be wide open. Honestly, if everyone was healthy, Pacers, Celtics, et cetera, they'd be right there again. So I do kind of view this as a gap year. I know the Pacers won't admit that, but what does this year do for you going forward when presumably you get Tyrese back in 2 years?
You just try to keep it going, keep these guys together, keep them healthy more than anything. And then you try to regroup next year. But, yeah, if they can play spoiler down the stretch, I would love that. If they're the kind of team, I look at their late games, they play at Cleveland towards the end of the season. They don't really play a bunch of great Eastern Conference teams. I know Detroit's on the rise. I don't know what Philadelphia's going to be about. Those are their last two games. But maybe you can screw things up for some people down the stretch. I've always liked that, too. If you can't compete for a title, mess it up for somebody else.
Yeah,
I'm petty
it's
that
the
way.
old, if I'm going home, you coming home with me.
It's like when someone pushes you in the pool, you got to pull them in with you, right?
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't done that much of my life.
All right, so it was great to talk to Rick Carlisle earlier today. That's already posted, you said. Yep. Mark Dykton, you are Johnny on the spot. So, again,
at 10:01.
Wait until 10:01, and then you can go and do that, and we'll all be good as far as that is concerned. I want to point out again for those that start to look at those things, Colts are 14.5-point favorites, Kevin, over the Tennessee Titans. You just don't see lines like that, and I think people are acknowledging that, Tennessee's not very good, but that Colts offense is for real right now.
Yeah, it's the second biggest line in the NFL this season. So anytime, I think Bills Saints, I believe, was the other one. So, obviously when you have a line that is north of 2 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns, it takes 2 to tango, and the Colts are very good, and the Titans are very bad. So, hence the line. And again, interim head coach Mike McCoy, who actually brought Shane Steichen back to San Diego to be with the Chargers back in the day. So, there is a little bit of connection on that sideline. The Titans hung in there for maybe a quarter or two against the Patriots, and then Mike Vrabel's bunch steamrolled them in the second half. They did lose Jeffrey Simmons in that game to a hamstring injury, who's probably their best player. So that also is another thing in the Colts' favor.
I say you don't see that line usually. You also really don't see it in divisional games. That's when you.
Good point. Good point.
That's why it's that's interesting.
Yeah, Packers-Bengals, I think, was also kind of a big line this year, right around 2 touchdowns. So, it hasn't happened very often. Like I was saying to Joel, it's, 12th time, I think, since 2000 for this franchise. You think about that, all the Peyton years, you think you'd stumble into, quite a few of those games, but even then, you didn't have them. So, typically the Colts have handled business quite well in these matchups, and I'd expect them to do that on Sunday.
All right, coming up in a moment, Indiana Hoosiers getting ready to take on UCLA in the Big Ten this weekend. We'll talk about that and hear from Kurt Signetti as we continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Things are going well in football terms around these parts. We've talked about the 6-1 Colts, and how about the Hoosiers, who are not only 7-0 overall, but 4-0 in conference play. Right there with Ohio State. Those are the number 1 and 2 teams in the country. Ohio State number 1, Indiana number 2. UCLA was having a tough season. They fired their head coach. They're now 3-1 in conference play with 3 straight wins in the Big Ten. And Curt Cignetti, the head coach for the Indiana Hoosiers, who we know he's one of those guys, Kevin. He likes to say nice things about the other team as they get ready to come in. He's not a bulletin board type guy. He likes to pump them up. But, man, he was pumping up UCLA yesterday in his first comments.
UCLA, we're playing a 3-0 football team that's undefeated. That's 3-0 in the conference. Since they have retooled their staff and now have their new defensive coordinator and offensive staff in place, very impressive football team, okay? And offensively, this team is rushing for 233 yards a game right now in their last 3 games, which would be against Penn State, Michigan State, and Maryland.
You like that, James? Just breaking it down to when the new coach came in. We don't even talk about what happened before that.
Yeah, whatever you got to do to, I guess, get your team. Excuse me. I'll throw it to Kevin. My voice is gone. Sorry.
All right, Kevin, go ahead while he gets
Yeah, I mean, I certainly get where Sig is going with it. You know, obviously, from a interim standpoint, UCLA has been a lot better here in recent weeks. Now, we'll see about the health of their quarterback. Nico, probably James is trying to pronounce that last name, and that's how he got choked up over there, because that's how I feel.
I think my voice is a little bit back, but yeah.
Try to pronounce Nico's last name, but he got banged up late in their win over Maryland. They came back, beat Maryland. And it sounds like his status a little bit up in the air early in the week, because this line is big. It's just as big as the Michigan State game, which, you know, when you look on paper, UCLA has been playing much better football leading into this game than Michigan State was. Yep. So, you know, why is that? Part of it probably is the old, you know, West Coast travel for a 9 a.m. local kickoff time for UCLA in Bloomington. But I don't know. Maybe Nico's status has something to do with it. So, you know, Indiana should once again roll. Is the bye week next week for Indiana? I think they have a bye coming up at some point here. I kind of forget when it is. Maybe it's a little bit more into November. So, yeah, I think it'll be a breeze for Indiana.
We're going to go with Nico Iamaleava. Now, see, I had it, and then I
was going to say you had it and lost it, brother.
I had it and lost it.
I would have believed you after the first one.
Iamaleava. That's what I want to say.
Sounds beautiful.
His brother, do you know his brother is a freshman quarterback on the team, too.
Oh, so it's a battle of brother quarterbacks, too. Then. Just like Indiana.
Iamaleava.
Happy not to be Don Fisher this week.
Yes.
It's going to be a hell of a
I'd stick with
tongue
Nico.
tie.
But no, they are. The one thing they do well is they run the ball. And they've been running the ball, as he said, you know, better than 200 yards a game. They've had it going on. And do you know who their leading rusher has been so far this season?
Is it Nico?
It's Nico. 360 yards rushing so far. So
it's not a great thing.
Well, his injury would matter a whole lot then for that game. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And I get UCLA has played better, but again, fully expect Indiana to take care of business.
Is Fernando Mendoza, by the way, doesn't look like it happens until before the Purdue game.
Gosh, that is weird.
Wisconsin at Indiana November 15th, and a gap before Indiana Purdue on November 28th.
Bye week in the second to last week of the season.
Would you prefer that?
No. I like it right in the middle. Yeah, I think like the Colts have their bye coming up in a few weeks. Like that's one of the better. Remember the Colts had like the latest bye in the NFL like a couple times in December there.
Let me throw this one at you though.
I think that's awful.
Don't you like having that right before Purdue, and then you're going to have a conference championship game, and then you want to have a couple of weeks run in the playoff there. Maybe it does come at a good time as you really get ready for important games after that Purdue game.
Yeah, I'm probably more of a mid-season, but I don't know.
Is Fernando Mendoza the Heisman frontrunner right now?
I think betting-wise he is. I think one thing that will hurt him down the stretch is Indiana won't be in many of these marquee time slots.
Yeah, fair.
And I think that matters. I don't agree with it, but I think it matters.
Yeah, it's certainly a factor. We can't be like sitting here like, oh, it's not. Yeah, we're human.
Where did Indiana play last week? Peacock. You know, I mean, now Saturday they're going to be at noon on Fox, which will help. But, you know, Penn State, that game has lost its luster. coming up in November there. So, you look at where game day is going. Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt this weekend. I mean, he's up there right now. He's got a little bit more of the flair to him.
He's fun to watch.
Man, but again, that stuff unfortunately matters.
Yeah.
There's bias in all these awards, let's be honest. We got in the debate yesterday, James. What does MVP mean? Does it mean most valuable player or does it mean best player?
Yeah, for the Colts, I would say their best player is JT, but their most valuable player is Daniel Jones.
Right. I would agree with that.
It's interesting. I was reading a bunch of articles yesterday about what makes a running back an MVP when that does happen. And it's usually going to be somebody right around 2,000 yards and over 20 touchdowns on a team that does very, very well. So JT's in the mix. Like, if he keeps on this pace right now, there's a chance.
This is so wild that we're talking about the Colts having 2 MVP candidates. I would have never guessed this. Even if they had somehow been this record, if you told me they would be 7-1 or 6-1 at this point in the year, at the start of the year, I would have thought, they game managed and they won a couple of games they weren't supposed to and got lucky here or there. But no, this isn't luck. They're putting the belt to folks' behind throughout this season so far. And I think the latest game was probably their best or most biggest statement game. And where do you go from here? And I think, again, I was teetering on, should you be all in? I think at this point, I'm bought in. You should make a move before the deadline and go get some type of defensive playmaker.
And the awards don't stop there. I mean, Rookie of the Year offensively, I think Tyler Warren's got to be the favorite. We'll see if one of these...
Dude, he's an all-pro right now.
Right.
First team.
Again, there'll be bias towards Jackson Dart if the Giants all of a sudden get it together somehow. And then Coach of the... Yeah, a little bit of hype there, but I don't know.
Again, it's a quarterback-running back thing. Like, who are you going to lean towards?
I tend to think it's quarterback that worries me more, Mark. And then definitely Coach of the Year has got to be Shane Steichen. That to me is probably the most obvious of all the awards.
Oh, you think so?
Out there.
Yeah.
Like Colts related. That one, I mean, that dude was on a top 5 list of being the first coach fired.
I tell you what, and he has been on fire when it comes to the play calling. The way he's able to scheme guys open is unbelievable. I mean, it's almost like watching a college game sometimes because that's usually what players will tell you. There's a difference between NFL open and college open. He gets his NFL guys college open on some of these plays. And I get that Daniel Jones has made a couple of great tight window throws throughout the year. But most of the time, man, he is throwing to some guys who have plenty of room to, make the catch and then make some yards after the catch.
Shane Steichen's the overwhelming favorite to win Coach of the Year. Tyler Warren is 3rd best odds for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Daniel Jones has 8th best odds to win MVP. And Jonathan Taylor is far and away the overwhelming Offensive Player of the Year candidate. That's crazy.
Ooh, baby.
That's crazy.
We're in the twilight zone, baby.
I like it. You look at the AFC South right now, 2-game lead over Jacksonville. Texans are just 2-4 after the loss last night, and Titans we've talked about, they play them this week, are just 1-6. I mean, Jacksonville has not looked all that great. You can see in the next month or here, you can see the Colts having like a three-game lead to play with here, Kevin, pretty soon.
Yeah, I think the AFC South will eventually get to the point where I'll be uttering the phrase, God bless the AFC South, like I do quite often. It's the division that usually keeps on giving. I thought Jacksonville's start was fluky. I thought they were just forcing a bunch of turnovers. And if you look at it, I believe the last 2 weeks they forced 0, and the record's 0-2. And they forced 1 million those first 4 games. So, that's something to get into a little bit more about the Colts. Nick Cross, Grover Stewart, those interceptions, you can't bank on those every week. Your defense has got to start naturally getting off the field a little bit more.
Yeah, Nick Cross has been my most pleasant surprise on defense so far this year.
In a contract year for him.
He's just been solid.
Yeah, he's been really good. I think continued growth throughout his career. Really nice 4-year growth, which, again, he was one of the younger players to be drafted in his draft.
Yeah, and, we talk about whether or not Chris Ballard wants to make a move and shore up that defense. Certainly, I agree with you, Kevin. Defensive line, I don't know, but are they just counting on getting healthy as the year goes along to get a bunch of guys back as much as anything?
Who's hurt?
Yeah.
I mean, until Sunday, no one was hurt.
Yeah.
Or,
D-line room.
Oh, D-line, yeah.
Right. I mean, D-line-wise, who was hurt before Sunday? Yeah, I mean, corner, yes, I can point to that, but really, there's no other injuries on defense besides corner. Now, corner, there's a ton, but safety.
That's what I meant. You're thinking you get your corners back and you'll be much better.
Yeah, I'm more of a, definitely more of a pass rusher.
I'm about saying, unless Javarius Ward is lining up on defensive end, make the move.
When he gets back, we'll put Josh Downs back on there again.
What they say, Mark? See if Tyler Warren can be an edge rusher? Wasn't that one of our headlines?
He can do
yesterday?
everything.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a 2-sack game, would you?
recruited as an athlete to Penn State.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I want to be an athlete one day.
Wouldn't you love to see Penn State get it all together and just upset Ohio State this week? Think about that. We'll be back tomorrow. Scott Dulson from Indiana Athletics joins us.